When a $10 million offer splits a boardroom in half, you know someone's about to lose everything. On the 42nd floor of Manhattan's most ruthless tech empire, Isabella Hart just made the kind of bet that destroys careers. Her AI system is bleeding money by the second. The investors are circling, and the man who might save her? He's wearing a janitor's uniform. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from so I can see how far this tale has traveled. The emergency meeting started at 2:47 a.m., which told you everything you needed to know about how bad things had gotten. Isabella Hart didn't do emergency meetings. She did scheduled crises, planned pivots, controlled burns. But this was a 5-alarm fire in a building made of gasoline-soaked money. The conference room on the 42nd floor had floor-to-ceiling windows that made you feel like you were floating above the city. On a good day, it was impressive, powerful, the kind of view that reminded you why you clawed your way to the top. Tonight, though? Tonight, those windows just showed you how far you had to fall. "Show me the cascade again," Isabella said. Her voice was level, controlled. She'd practiced that voice for years, the one that didn't crack under pressure, didn't betray the fact that her heart was trying to jackhammer its way through her rib cage. Marcus Webb, her chief technology officer, pulled up the visualization on the main screen. Lines of code scrolled past, interspersed with error messages that bloomed like red flowers in a field of green text. "It started at 11:34 p.m., he said. His tie was loosened, his usually perfect hair sticking up in places where he'd run his hands through it one too many times. Small anomalies in the prediction engine. We thought it was a data quality issue." "You thought wrong," Isabella said. It wasn't a question. By midnight, the anomalies had propagated through the entire neural network. Marcus's hands shook slightly as he manipulated the display. "Every model we've deployed in the last 6 months is now producing garbage outputs. The financial forecasting system told 3 of our biggest clients to dump their entire portfolios at market open. The medical diagnostics AI recommended chemotherapy for a patient with a sprained ankle. The autonomous vehicle routing system tried to send a fleet of delivery trucks into the Hudson River. Someone laughed. It was brief, quickly stifled, but it cut through the tension like a knife. Isabella's eyes snapped to the source, a young engineer named David something, who immediately looked like he regretted being born. "Something funny?" Isabella asked. "No, ma'am. Sorry, it's just—" He swallowed hard. "It's almost impressive how thoroughly it broke." Isabella turned back to the screen. He wasn't wrong. In 15 years of building AI systems, she'd never seen a failure this comprehensive, this elegant in its destruction. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion, each support beam failing at precisely the right moment to bring down the whole structure. "How much are we losing?" she asked. Her CFO, Amanda Richardson, spoke up from her position near the door. She looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. "Current estimate? 43 million in direct losses. Another 120 million in contractual penalties if we can't restore service by market open. That's in..." She checked her watch. 4 hours and 11 minutes. "And the lawsuits?" Amanda's jaw tightened. "Conservative estimate? North of 2 billion. If someone dies because of one of our systems giving bad medical advice, we're looking at criminal charges." The room went quiet. Not the productive kind of quiet where people were thinking, the kind where everyone was calculating how fast they could update their LinkedIn profiles. Isabella walked to the window, her heels clicking against the polished concrete floor. Below, the city sprawled out in a grid of lights. Somewhere down there, people were sleeping, unaware that the AI systems they'd come to rely on had just had a collective stroke. She pressed her hand against the cold glass. "Options," she said. Marcus cleared his throat. "We've tried rolling back to previous versions. The corruption is in the training data itself. We'd have to rebuild from scratch, retrain every model. That's 6 months of work, minimum. We don't have 6 months." "I know." "We don't have 6 days." "I know." Isabella turned back to face the room. 23 people, all of them brilliant, all of them useless right now. She'd handpicked this team, paid them obscene salaries, given them equity packages that would make them wealthy beyond imagination if the company survived. And not one of them could fix this. "What about the backup systems?" This from Jennifer Park, their head of infrastructure. Marcus shook his head. "The backups are clean, but they're from last quarter. We'd lose everything we've built since then. All the improvements, all the new features, we'd be setting the company back months. Months we'd have, Jennifer countered. Better than bankruptcy. Is it? Marcus shot back. We go back to Q3 versions. We lose competitive advantage. Our clients will jump ship anyway. We're dead either way, just slower. The argument escalated. Voices rose. Someone threw a marker at the whiteboard in frustration. Isabella let it happen for about 30 seconds before she spoke. Enough! Silence crashed down like a guillotine. She walked back to the head of the table, placed both hands flat on its surface. The wood was expensive, reclaimed from some historic building in Brooklyn. She'd paid extra for the story it told. Right now, she'd have traded it for a folding table and a solution. Here's what's going to happen, she said. We have 4 hours. If any of you can fix this, truly fix it, not patch it or band-aid it, I will personally write you a check for $10 million. The number landed like a bomb. That's insane, Amanda said. Isabella, do you have a better idea? Isabella didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. We're hemorrhaging money by the second. Our reputation is on fire. I'm offering $10 million to whoever can put out that fire. She looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. Consider it motivation. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then the room exploded into activity. Engineers grabbed laptops, huddled in corners, started pulling up diagnostics and logs. The energy shifted from despair to something else. Not quite hope, but maybe its desperate cousin. Isabella stepped back, let them work. She checked her phone. 3 messages from board members demanding updates. One from her mother asking if she'd be home for dinner next Sunday. She deleted them all. This is crazy, Amanda said quietly, moving to stand beside her. You know that, right? $10 million? You said we're facing $2 billion in lawsuits. Still, $10 million for a single employee. I don't care if it's a single employee or the guy who empties the trash cans, Isabella said. If someone can fix this, they've earned it. As if on cue, the door opened. A cleaning cart appeared first, pushed by someone who clearly hadn't gotten the memo about the executive floor being off-limits during the crisis meeting. The man pushing it wore a gray maintenance uniform, the kind with a name tag stitched above the pocket. He was maybe early 30s, needed a shave, looked like he'd been awake as long as they had. Sorry, he said, already backing up. I'll come back. It's fine, Isabella said, distracted. One of the engineers had just shouted something about finding a pattern in the error logs. But the maintenance guy didn't leave. He stood there, cart half in and half out of the conference room, staring at the visualization on the screen. Marcus noticed him first. Can we help you? The man blinked, seemed to remember where he was. No, sorry, He gestured at the screen. That's a neural network cascade failure, right? The room went quiet again, but this time it was a different kind of quiet. The kind where everyone was trying to figure out if they'd heard correctly. How do you know that? Marcus asked. His tone wasn't quite hostile, but it was heading in that direction. The maintenance guy shrugged. Used to work in the field. Long time ago. He started to back up again. Good luck with it. Wait. Isabella's voice cut across the room. Something in her gut had tensed. That same instinct that had guided her through a dozen impossible business decisions. What did you say your name was? He hesitated. For a second, she thought he might actually run. Ethan, he said finally. Ethan Cole. And you worked in AI? Yeah, different life. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I push a mop now. Pays better for the soul. Someone snickered. Isabella silenced them with a look. Mr. Cole, she said, I just offered $10 million to anyone who can fix that system. You interested? Now the snickering turned to outright laughter. David something actually slapped the table. Oh, this is perfect. Yeah, let's let the janitor, but maintenance technician, Ethan corrected mildly. Fine. Maintenance technician? Let's let him take a crack at the problem that stumped 23 PhD-level engineers. That'll look great in the bankruptcy filing. Ethan's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Isabella caught it, recognized it. It was the same thing she saw in her own mirror every morning, the look of someone who'd learned to swallow anger so often they'd forgotten what it tasted like. You got a better idea? She asked David something. Because so far, all I'm hearing is excuses. David opened his mouth, closed it again. Isabella turned back to Ethan. 5 minutes, she said. That's all I'm giving you. Take a look. Tell me what you see. If it's garbage, you go back to pushing your cart. If it's useful, she shrugged, then maybe the trash guy saves the company. Isabella, this is ridiculous, Marcus said. We have actual experts working the problem. Your actual experts have had 3 hours and we're no closer to a solution, Isabella shot back. 5 minutes. What's the harm? Ethan stood there, hand still on his cleaning cart, clearly weighing his options. Isabella could almost see the calculation happening behind his eyes. Whatever he was thinking, it was more complex than it should have been for a simple yes or no question. Okay, he said finally. 5 minutes. He parked his cart by the door and walked to the main console. Marcus reluctantly stepped aside, but his body language screamed territorial. Ethan didn't seem to notice or care. He pulled up a chair, someone's expensive ergonomic thing that probably cost more than his monthly salary, and started typing. The room watched in a silence that walked the line between curious and hostile. Can you bring up the raw data feeds? Ethan asked. Not the processed outputs, the actual input streams. Marcus leaned over and tapped a few keys. Multiple windows appeared, scrolling with numbers and timestamps. Ethan stared at them. Didn't touch the keyboard, just looked. This is what passes for debugging? David muttered to the engineer next to him. Staring. But Isabella was watching Ethan's face. He wasn't just staring. His eyes were moving, tracking patterns she couldn't see. She'd seen that look before, in chess masters analyzing a board, in musicians hearing a symphony in their heads. Your timestamp server, Ethan said suddenly. What time zone is it running in? UTC, Marcus said. Standard practice. And your data collection servers? Same. Everything's synchronized to UTC. Ethan nodded slowly. Can you show me the network topology? How the data flows from collection to processing? Jennifer pulled up a diagram. It looked like a subway map designed by someone on mushrooms, nodes and connections spreading out in all directions. Ethan studied it for maybe 20 seconds. Then he pointed to a small server farm labeled timesync-cluster-03. That, he said. When was the last time that was updated? Jennifer frowned, pulled up a maintenance log. 6 months ago. Why? What was the update? Just a routine patch. Security fix for... She stopped, her eyes widening. Oh, hell. What? Isabella demanded. Ethan sat back in the chair. Your timestamp synchronization cluster. 6 months ago, someone patched it. Probably didn't think twice about it, but that patch changed how the system handles leap second adjustments. Marcus was already typing, pulling up the technical specs. That's not possible. Leap seconds don't matter at this scale. We're talking microseconds of drift. Microseconds in the timestamp, Ethan agreed. But when your AI models are training on data that spans months, making millions of calculations based on those timestamps, those microseconds compound. The models learn to predict patterns that don't actually exist in reality. They're predicting relationships between events that are slightly out of sync with when those events actually occurred. The room had gone dead silent. Even David had stopped smirking. It's like, Ethan gestured, trying to find the words. It's like if you tried to learn music, but the metronome was wrong. Just a tiny bit off. You'd learn the rhythm, you'd practice it perfectly. But when you tried to play with real musicians, everything would be slightly wrong. And you'd never know why, because according to your metronome, you're perfect. Isabella felt something click in her mind. The system isn't broken, she said slowly. It's learning from broken data. Exactly. Ethan pulled up the timestamp server logs. Look, here. Every 7 hours, there's a microsecond correction. Your AI doesn't know how to handle that. It treats it like real variation in the data, tries to find patterns in what's actually just measurement noise. Marcus was staring at the screen like it had just insulted his mother. Jesus. That's elegant and terrible, and we never would have found it. Why not? Isabella asked. Because it's not in the AI, Ethan said. It's in the infrastructure, and nobody ever looks at the infrastructure. It's like blaming the road when your car breaks down. Jennifer was already typing, her fingers flying across the keyboard. If I roll back the timestamp server to the previous version, won't work, Ethan interrupted. The corruption is already in your training data. You need to recalibrate all your models to account for the timing drift. It's a three-step process. First, you identify which data sets are affected. Second, you create a correction algorithm that can adjust the timestamps retroactively. Third, you retrain the critical models using the corrected data. That'll take days, Marcus protested. Not if you parallelize it. Ethan was already sketching something on the whiteboard, moving with the kind of confidence that only came from deep expertise. You don't need to retrain everything, just the models that were deployed after the patch. And you can do that in, he did some quick math, about 6 hours if you use your full compute cluster. 6 hours, Amanda said. Market opens in 4. Then you use the backup systems for the critical services, Ethan said, not looking up from his calculations. The old models, they're not as good, but they're stable. Switch to those for now. Fix the rest as you go. Marcus and Jennifer exchanged looks. That could actually work, Jennifer said. Of course it could work, Marcus said, but he didn't sound angry anymore. He sounded stunned. It's brilliant. It's the kind of solution that's obvious once someone points it out, but invisible until they do. Isabella walked over to where Ethan was still writing equations on the whiteboard. Up close, she could see the tiredness in his eyes, the way his shoulders carried tension like a physical weight. Where did you learn to think like that? She asked quietly. Ethan paused, marker hovering over the board. MIT, class of 2015. Then I worked at Prometheus AI for 3 years before... He stopped himself. Before I didn't. Why did you leave? He turned to look at her then, and for a moment the exhaustion fell away and she saw something harder underneath. Because they wanted me to build something I couldn't live with building, so I made a choice. To push a cleaning cart. To sleep at night. He capped the marker, set it down. Your 5 minutes are up. The solution's on the board. Your team can take it from here. He started to walk away. Isabella should have let him go. Should have turned back to her engineers, started implementing the fix, saved the company. But that instinct in her gut was still firing, telling her there was more here than met the eye. Mr. Cole, she called out, that offer still stands, $10 million? Ethan stopped at his cleaning cart. For what? You just saved my company. Seems fair. He laughed, and it was the saddest sound she'd heard all night. I showed your team where to look. They'll do the actual work. I don't need $10 million for 5 minutes of pointing. Most people would take it anyway. I'm not most people. Clearly. Isabella crossed her arms. So what do you want? Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Behind him, the engineers were already implementing his solution, their voices rising in excitement as they saw it working. The visualization on the screen was starting to stabilize, the red error messages fading to yellow warnings. I want to go home, he said finally. I want to get 4 hours of sleep before my daughter wakes up. I want to make her breakfast and walk her to school and not think about AI or neural networks or any of this. He gestured at the room. That's what I want. You have a daughter. Chloe. She's 7. Likes dinosaurs and hates broccoli and thinks her dad is the smartest person in the world, which is a lie I'd like to maintain for as long as possible. Isabella felt something twist in her chest. She'd spent the last decade building an empire, and somewhere along the way she'd stopped thinking about what came after. What you built empires for, if not to share them with someone. Mr. Cole, she said, I don't know what happened at Prometheus AI. And I don't know why a man with your obvious talent is working maintenance in my building, but I do know that you just did in 5 minutes what my entire team couldn't do in 3 hours. So I'm going to make you an offer, and I want you to actually consider it instead of running away. Ethan's jaw tightened. I'm not running. No? She tilted her head. Then what do you call it? He didn't answer. Work for me, Isabella said. Not full-time. Not in an office. I don't care if you show up in a suit or a maintenance uniform. But when we have problems like this, problems that need someone who can see what everyone else is missing, I want you to be the person I call. I told you. I know what you told me. You want to sleep at night. Fine. Help me build systems that let you sleep at night. Help me make sure we're not creating the kinds of things you walked away from. She paused. And let me pay you enough that your daughter doesn't have to worry about college or medical bills or any of the 1,000 things that keep parents up at night. Behind them, Jennifer shouted in triumph. It's working! The corrections are holding! Ethan looked at the screen, then back at Isabella. You don't know me, he said quietly. You don't know what I'm capable of, or what I've done. True, Isabella said. But I know what you just did, and I know that when I offered you $10 million, you turned it down. That tells me more than any resume. Does it? Something dark flickered across his face. Maybe I just don't think I earned it. Or maybe you're the kind of person who actually cares about earning things. Isabella extended her hand. Think about it. No pressure, but my card's in your cart. I had Amanda slip it in there, so when you're ready to talk, you know where to find me. Ethan looked at her hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, he shook it. His grip was firm, calloused, working hands. I'll think about it, he said. But don't expect me to show up in a corner office. I wouldn't dream of it, Isabella said. Corner offices are overrated anyway, too much glass. He almost smiled at that. Almost. Then he grabbed his cleaning cart and headed for the door. Mr. Cole, Isabella called after him. He turned. Thank you, seriously. He nodded once, then disappeared into the hallway. Isabella stood there for a moment, staring at the empty doorway, trying to figure out what had just happened. Behind her, her team was celebrating, implementing the fix, already composing the all-hands email that would explain how disaster had been averted. But she wasn't thinking about the company anymore. She was thinking about a man who'd walked away from everything she'd spent her life chasing and somehow seemed more content than anyone in this room. Isabella? Marcus was at her elbow. We need to make some decisions about the rollout. Right, she said, pulling herself back to the present. Let's do it. But as she dove back into the crisis, now solvable instead of catastrophic, part of her mind was still on Ethan Cole, on the mystery of him, on the way he'd looked at that screen and seen something no one else could, on the fact that somewhere in this city there was a 7-year-old girl named Chloe who had no idea her father had just saved a billion-dollar company. The sun was coming up by the time Isabella finally left the office. The fix was holding. Markets would open in an hour, and while they'd taken a hit, it wouldn't be catastrophic. Lawsuits could be managed. The company would survive. She should have felt triumphant, relieved at least. Instead, she felt hollow. Her driver was waiting by the curb, but Isabella waved him off. She wanted to walk, needed to walk. The morning air was cold, the city just starting to wake up around her. 2 blocks from her building, she passed a small park, and there, sitting on a bench with a paper cup of coffee and a book, was Ethan Cole. He changed out of his work uniform into jeans and a worn jacket. Next to him sat a backpack covered in dinosaur stickers. Isabella almost kept walking. Should have kept walking. But her feet stopped anyway. Rough night? She asked. Ethan looked up, showed no surprise at seeing her. Every night's rough when you work graveyard shift. You waiting for someone? School bus picks up on this corner in about 20 minutes. Chloe likes to get here early, watch the pigeons. He took a sip of his coffee. You on your way home? Eventually. Isabella gestured at the bench. Mind if I sit? It's a public bench. She sat. For a while, neither of them spoke. The city woke up around them. Delivery trucks rumbling past, joggers on their morning routes, the first rush of commuters heading for the subway. Why did you really leave Prometheus? Isabella asked finally. Ethan was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. Then, they wanted me to build a predictive policing algorithm, feed it demographic data, arrest records, social media activity, and it would tell you where crimes were most likely to happen, who was most likely to commit them. That doesn't sound inherently bad. It doesn't, Ethan agreed. Right up until you realize that an algorithm like that doesn't predict crime. It predicts where police are most likely to look. And if you're basing your training data on a system that's already biased, you're just automating that bias, making it official, scientific. He stared at his coffee cup. I told them it would end up targeting the same communities that were already over-policed. They told me that was a political problem, not a technical one. Said I should just build what they were paying me to build. And you said no. I said hell no. Walked out that day, cleared my desk in 20 minutes. He smiled, but there was no humor in it. Turns out, having principles is expensive, especially when you have a kid to support and every other AI company in the city knows you burned bridges with Prometheus. Isabella absorbed this. So you took a job pushing a mop. I took a job that let me look at myself in the mirror. Pays worse, but the benefits are better. He glanced at her. What about you? You ever walk away from anything? The question landed harder than it should have. Isabella thought about her marriage. dissolved after 3 years because she'd chosen the company over her husband one too many times. Thought about her sister, who'd stopped calling after Isabella missed one family event too many. Thought about all the small sacrifices that had seemed so necessary at the time. No, she said honestly, I'm usually the one people walk away from. Why? Because I'm good at building companies and terrible at building relationships. Because I can see a problem from 10 angles at once, but I can't remember my nephew's birthday. Because, she stopped herself. Because it's easier to fix systems than people. Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, I used to think that too. What changed? Had a daughter. Turns out kids are the least fixable thing in the world, and you love them anyway. He checked his watch. She'll be here in 5 minutes. Fair warning, she's going to ask you a million questions. 7-year-olds don't really understand boundaries. As if on cue, a small figure came barreling down the sidewalk. Chloe Cole was all knees and elbows and enthusiasm, wearing a backpack that was almost as big as she was. Her hair was pulled into 2 lopsided pigtails that suggested her father had done them himself. Dad! She launched herself at Ethan, who caught her with practiced ease. Mrs. Chen said we're doing a science project today. We get to build rockets. That's great, kiddo. Ethan hugged her tight. You remember to eat breakfast? Yep. All the toast. All of it? Even the crusts? Especially the crusts. Chloe noticed Isabella then, her eyes going wide. Who are you? Chloe. Manners, Ethan said. I'm Isabella, Isabella said, extending her hand solemnly. I work with your dad. Chloe shook her hand with surprising firmness for a 7-year-old. Dad pushes a cleaning cart. Are you a cleaner too? No, Isabella paused. I run the building where your dad works. Oh, Chloe processed this. So you're his boss? Something like that. Are you giving him a raise because he works really hard and he's really smart, but our apartment is really small and I have to share a room with all my dinosaurs? Chloe, Ethan started. It's okay, Isabella said. She looked at this small person with dinosaur stickers on her backpack, and something shifted in her chest. This was what Ethan had walked away from Prometheus for. This was what he was protecting. I'll see what I can do. The school bus pulled up to the corner with a hydraulic hiss. That's me! Chloe grabbed her backpack. Bye, Dad. Bye, Dad's boss. She started to run, then turned back. Hey, Dad? Yeah, kiddo? Love you like dinosaurs love meteorites. That's morbid, Ethan called after her. But I love you too. Chloe disappeared onto the bus, which pulled away with another hiss and a cloud of diesel exhaust. Isabella and Ethan sat in the sudden quiet. She seems great, Isabella said. She's everything. Ethan stood, gathered his things. I should get going. Need to sleep before my next shift. Ethan? Isabella stood too. That offer I made. It's not just about the money, it's about… She struggled for the words. I've spent 15 years building this company, and in all that time I never stopped to ask if I was building the right things. You did. You asked that question and you paid the price for it. I need people like you, people who know when to walk away. You don't need me, Ethan said. You've got a whole team of geniuses up there. I've got a team of people who are really good at solving the problems I give them. You're good at seeing the problems I don't know to ask about. She pulled out her phone. I'm serious about this, not full-time, not some corporate job that puts you in an office. Just consult. When we're building something new, you take a look. Tell me if it's something you could live with, if it's something Chloe could be proud of. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. And if I say no, then you say no. I'll wish you well, and that's the end of it. No pressure, no guilt. Isabella smiled. But I'm hoping you say yes. He didn't answer right away, just stood there, early morning sun catching the gray in his hair, the lines around his eyes. A man who'd made hard choices and lived with them. I'll think about it, he said finally. Really think about it this time. That's all I'm asking. Ethan nodded, then started walking away. He made it about 10 steps before he stopped and turned back. Hey, Isabella. Yeah? Thank you for sitting on the bench, for talking to Chloe. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to, Isabella said, and realized as she said it that it was true. She watched him walk away until he disappeared around a corner. Then she pulled out her phone and called her driver. Time to go home. Get some sleep. Face whatever came next. But for the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt like she was building something more than just a company. She was building something that might actually matter. 3 days passed before Isabella saw Ethan again, and when she did, it wasn't because he'd called her. She'd spent those 3 days putting out fires. The crisis had been averted, but the aftermath was messy. Client calls that lasted hours. Emergency board meetings where she had to explain how a timestamp server nearly bankrupted them. Press releases carefully worded to make it sound like they'd been in control the whole time. By Thursday afternoon, she was running on coffee and spite. "You need to go home," Amanda told her, standing in the doorway of Isabella's office with her arms crossed. "You've been here for 72 hours straight." "I slept on the couch Tuesday night." 4 hours doesn't count as sleep. It counts as a long blink. Amanda walked over and physically closed Isabella's laptop. "Go home, shower, eat something that didn't come from a vending machine. The company will survive 6 hours without you." Isabella wanted to argue, but Amanda had that look. The one that said she'd already won the argument and was just waiting for Isabella to catch up. "Fine," Isabella said. 6 hours, but if anything, I'll call you. I promise. Now get out of my sight before I have security escort you." The elevator ride down felt longer than usual. Isabella leaned against the wall, watching the numbers tick down. 42, 41, 40. Her reflection in the polished doors looked exhausted. When had she started looking this tired? The doors opened on the lobby level, and Isabella stepped out into the controlled chaos of the building's evening rush. People everywhere, heading home or heading out for dinner. She was pushing through the crowd when she heard it. "No, that's wrong. You need to recalibrate the whole sensor array, not just replace the faulty unit." She turned. There was Ethan, crouched next to an open electrical panel in the wall, talking to another maintenance worker, a younger guy with a tool belt and a confused expression. "But the diagnostic says it's just the one sensor," the younger guy said. "The diagnostic is reading the symptoms, not the cause." Ethan pointed at something inside the panel. "See how the voltage is fluctuating? That's upstream. You replace this sensor, you'll be back here tomorrow replacing another one. Fix the root problem." "How do you even know that?" Ethan shrugged. "Because I've fixed enough broken things to recognize the pattern." Isabella found herself walking over before she'd consciously decided to. "Mr. Cole." Ethan looked up, surprise flickering across his face before settling back into that careful neutral expression he seemed to wear like armor. "Ms. Hart." "It's Isabella. We've been through a crisis together. I think we're past formalities." "Fair enough." He stood, wiping his hands on his work pants. "Ethan, then." The younger maintenance worker was looking between them with growing interest. Ethan noticed. "Tony, take your break. I'll finish this." Tony looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Ethan's tone made him nod and disappear around the corner. "You've been avoiding my calls," Isabella said once they were alone. "I've been thinking." "For 3 days?" "It's a big decision." Ethan turned back to the electrical panel, started making adjustments with a multimeter. "Not something I want to rush." Isabella watched him work. His movements were precise, economical, no wasted motion. "What's holding you back? Honestly?" Ethan didn't look up. "I'm trying to figure out if you're serious or if this is just adrenaline talking. Crisis makes people promise things they don't mean." "I mean it." "Do you?" Now he did look at her. "Because in my experience, people like you don't actually want people like me around. You want us when there's a fire to put out, sure. But once things settle, we're just reminders that you needed help, that you didn't have all the answers." The words stung because they weren't entirely wrong. Isabella had built her career on being the smartest person in the room, on having the answers before people finished asking the questions. "You're right," she said. "Normally, I'd probably ghost you once the crisis passed. Send a nice thank you email, maybe a fruit basket. Move on." "So what's different this time?" Isabella thought about the past 3 days, about the moment in the board meeting when she'd realized none of them actually understood what had gone wrong. They just knew it was fixed, about the calls with clients who wanted reassurance that it wouldn't happen again, and her growing certainty that she couldn't actually give them that reassurance. Not honestly. "I'm scared," she said finally. "I built this company on the idea that I could see around corners, that I was smart enough to avoid the disasters before they happened. And then a timestamp server nearly destroyed everything, and I had no idea. None. If you hadn't been pushing your cart past that conference room. She stopped. Ethan was watching her now, really watching her. You want me around so you can sleep at night, he said. It wasn't a question. I want you around because you see things I miss. And apparently, I miss a lot. Isabella leaned against the wall. Look, I get it. You walked away from this world for good reasons. You've got a life, a daughter. I'm asking you to dip your toe back into something you deliberately left behind. That's not a small ask. No, it's not. But I'm not asking you to come back full time. I'm not asking you to sit in meetings or write reports or any of that corporate nonsense. She paused. I'm asking you to be a failsafe. When we're building something new, something that could hurt people if we get it wrong, you take a look. You tell me if we're missing something. That's it. Ethan closed the electrical panel, tested the sensors. Everything read green now. And if I say you're building something dangerous, if I say stop, then we stop. Just like that. Just like that. He laughed, but it was hollow. You say that now. But when there's money on the line, deadlines, investors breathing down your neck, you'll tell me the risks are acceptable, that we can mitigate them, that we need to move fast and iterate. Maybe, Isabella admitted, but at least you'll have said it. At least someone will have pumped the brakes. That's more than most companies have. Ethan picked up his toolbox, started walking toward the service elevator. Isabella followed. My daughter asked me why I mop floors when I used to build robots, he said quietly. That's how she understands it. Dad used to build robots, now he cleans them. What did you tell her? I told her I got tired of building things that didn't make people happy. The elevator arrived and they stepped in. Ethan hit the button for the basement level. She asked if cleaning made people happy. I said it did, in its own way. Clean floors mean people don't trip and fall. That's something. The elevator descended in silence. Isabella could hear her own heartbeat, or maybe it was the building's mechanical systems. Hard to tell sometimes. What if I said yes? Ethan asked suddenly. What would that actually look like? Isabella felt something loosen in her chest. Hope. Maybe. You tell me. What would make this work for you? I keep my current job, my hours, my life. He held up a hand before she could protest. I'm serious. I'm not giving up what I have for what you're offering. It's too unstable, too much like the world I left. Okay, I work remotely. You send me specs, designs, whatever you want me to review. I look at it on my own time, send you my thoughts. No office hours, no standing meetings. Okay? And if Chloe has a school thing, a doctor's appointment, if she's sick, that comes first. Always. No guilt trips, no passive-aggressive comments about commitment. Done. Isabella stuck out her hand. Anything else? Ethan looked at her hand like it might bite him. You're serious. You're actually agreeing to all of that. I told you, I don't care how you work. I care that you work. She kept her hand extended. So? Do we have a deal? He stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly he reached out and shook her hand. We have a deal, he said. But I want it in writing. Contract, terms, everything. I'm not doing this on a handshake. Amanda will have something drafted by tomorrow. And the pay will be commensurate with the value you provide, which, given that you saved the company from collapse, is substantial. Isabella smiled. Don't worry, you won't have to share a room with the dinosaurs much longer. The elevator doors opened on the basement level. Harsh fluorescent lights, concrete walls, the smell of industrial cleaner and machine oil. Ethan's world. I'll need access to your development systems, he said, stepping out. Read-only is fine, but I need to see what your teams are actually building, not just the sanitized versions. I'll set it up. And if I find something I don't like, something that crosses a line, I'm going to be loud about it. I won't be polite. I won't couch it in corporate speak. Good. That's exactly what I need. Ethan set down his toolbox, turned to face her fully. Why are you really doing this, Isabella? And don't give me the line about sleeping at night. There's something else. She could have deflected. Should have deflected. But something about the basement's harsh light, the rawness of the space, made her want to be honest. My father built this company from nothing, she said. Died of a heart attack at his desk when I was 25. Left me everything. The business, the debt, the impossible expectations. I spent the next 15 years trying to prove I was worthy of it, that I could be as good as him, better even. Sounds exhausting. It was. It is. Isabella looked around the basement, at the guts of the building that most people never saw. And somewhere along the way, I forgot to ask if I was building something worth having. If the company my father started would have become what it is now. If he'd be proud or horrified. Which do you think? Honestly, I don't know. And that terrifies me. She met his eyes. You asked that question at Prometheus. You looked at what they wanted you to build and said, no, I need someone who's willing to do that, because I'm not sure I can anymore. The admission hung in the air between them. Ethan didn't rush to fill the silence, didn't offer empty reassurances. He just nodded, like he understood. Okay, he said finally, let's see if we can build something your father would be proud of. Isabella felt something in her chest crack open, just a little. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You might hate what I have to say. Probably, but I'd rather hate the truth than love a comfortable lie. Ethan picked up his toolbox again. I need to finish my rounds, but send me whatever you want me to look at. I'll start this weekend. This weekend? Don't you want to... Sooner I start, sooner we know if this is going to work. He started walking down the corridor, then called back over his shoulder. And Isabella? Get some sleep. You look like death. She laughed despite herself. You're fired. Can't fire me, we just shook on it. He disappeared around a corner, leaving Isabella alone in the basement. She stood there for a moment, listening to the building's mechanical heartbeat, feeling like she'd just made either the best decision of her career or the worst. Time would tell which. She took the elevator back up to the lobby, stepped out into the evening air. Her driver was waiting, but Isabella waved him off again. She wanted to walk. The city was beautiful at this hour, caught between day and night. Office workers streaming out of buildings, street vendors setting up for the dinner rush, the first neon signs flickering to life. Her phone buzzed. A text from Amanda. Did you actually leave, or are you hiding in a supply closet? Isabella typed back, I left, and I hired Ethan Cole. The response came almost immediately. The maintenance guy, are you serious? Very. Draw up a consulting contract, generous terms. He gets access to all our development projects. There was a longer pause this time. Then, you know the board is going to lose their minds, right? Let them. I'm done making decisions based on what they think. Another pause. Okay, I'll have something ready tomorrow. But Isabella, are you okay? Isabella stopped walking, looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there beyond the light pollution and smog, there were stars. She'd forgotten that sometimes. I think so, she typed. For the first time in a while, I think so. She pocketed her phone and kept walking, no particular destination in mind. Just moving, breathing, existing outside the pressure cooker of the office. She passed the park where she'd talked to Ethan and Chloe. The bench was empty now, but she could picture them there. Father and daughter waiting for the school bus, living a life that had nothing to do with quarterly earnings or market share. What would that be like? To have someone waiting for you who didn't care about your stock price, who just wanted you home for dinner? Isabella's phone buzzed again. This time it was her mother. Dinner Sunday? I'm making lasagna. No excuses. She almost declined. Almost sent the usual message about work, about deadlines, about how she'd make it up next time. But then she thought about Ethan saying no to Prometheus, walking away from everything to keep his soul intact. I'll be there, she typed. What can I bring? Just yourself. And maybe whatever's bothering you. We can talk. Isabella felt her throat tighten. When was the last time she'd actually talked to her mother? Really talked. Not just surface-level catch-up over rushed phone calls? Okay, she wrote. See you Sunday. She was about to put her phone away when it rang. Marcus. Please tell me nothing's on fire, she said by way of greeting. Nothing's on fire, but we've got a situation. Marcus sounded stressed, which was saying something. The man handled pressure like most people handled breathing. Remember the medical diagnostics AI? The one that told someone to get chemotherapy for a sprained ankle? Hard to forget? Well, the patient's lawyer just filed a lawsuit, and they're going public with it. Press conference tomorrow morning. Isabella closed her eyes. Of course they were. How bad? Bad enough that Legal wants to settle immediately, but Amanda thinks we should fight it, establish that it was clearly a system error, not negligence. They're at each other's throats. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I thought Amanda sent you home. She did. I'm coming back. Isabella, 20 minutes, Marcus. She hung up and flagged down her driver, who'd been following at a discreet distance. Old habits. The car ride back to the office was quiet. Isabella stared out the window, watching the city slide past, and thought about Ethan's question. What happens when there's money on the line? Well, now they'd find out. Back in her office, the argument was already in full swing. Amanda and the head of legal, a sharp-dressed woman named Patricia Chen, were facing off across the conference table like boxers in a ring. We settle, we're admitting fault, Amanda was saying. Every ambulance chaser in the city will smell blood in the water. We fight, we drag this out for months, Patricia countered. The press will have a field day. Every story will lead with Hart Industries AI nearly killed a patient. Our stock will tank. Our stock will tank either way if we look weak. We'll look responsible, accountable, human. Isabella walked to the head of the table, set down her bag. Both women stopped arguing and looked at her. What does the patient want? Isabella asked. Patricia blinked. I'm sorry? The patient, the one who almost got unnecessary chemotherapy. What do they want? Money, presumably. That's what the lawsuit... Have we asked them? Isabella looked between the two women. Have we actually talked to this person, or are we just assuming? Amanda and Patricia exchanged glances. We've communicated through their lawyer, Patricia said carefully. That's standard procedure. Forget standard procedure. Isabella pulled out her phone. What's their name? Michael Torres. He's a high school teacher, 43, married, 2 kids. Get me his number. Isabella, that's highly irregular. We can't just... I'm not asking legal to do it. I'm asking you to get me his contact information so I can call him myself. Patricia looked horrified. That's an incredibly bad idea. Legally speaking, anything you say could be used against us in court. You could make this so much worse. Or I could make it better. Isabella held out her hand. Number, now. Patricia reluctantly pulled up the information on her tablet, scribbled it on a notepad. For the record, I strongly advise against this. Noted. Isabella took the number and walked to the window, dialed before she could second-guess herself. It rang 3 times before a male voice answered, cautious. Hello? Mr. Torres? This is Isabella Hart. I'm the CEO of Hart Industries. Silence on the other end. Then, is this a joke? No joke. I'm calling because I just heard about your lawsuit and I wanted to talk to you directly, if you're willing. My lawyer said not to talk to you. I know, and he's probably right, but I'm asking anyway. Isabella took a breath. Mr. Torres, our AI system nearly convinced you that you had cancer, that you needed chemotherapy. I can't imagine how terrifying that must have been. Another long pause. It was the worst 3 hours of my life, Torres said finally. His voice was rough, like he'd been crying or shouting, or both. I called my wife, told her to pick up the kids from school early, sat in that doctor's office and planned my funeral. I'm sorry, Isabella said, and meant it. I'm so sorry. That should never have happened. No, it shouldn't have, but it did. And your company's lawyers are already trying to spin it as some kind of isolated incident, but it's not isolated, is it? I've been reading the news. Your systems have been glitching all week. They have. We had a major failure that we've since corrected, but you're right. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. So why are you calling me? Good question. Isabella looked out at the city, at all those lights representing all those lives that her company's systems touched in ways she never thought about. Because I want to know what you want, she said. Not what your lawyer wants, not what makes for a good settlement. You. What would make this right? Torres was quiet for so long, Isabella thought the connection had dropped. Then, I want to know it won't happen to someone else. That's it. I don't care about the money, though my lawyer assures me I should. I care that some other terrified person doesn't get told they're dying when they're not. That's fair, Isabella said. More than fair. Can you promise me that? That you've actually fixed it? Isabella thought about Ethan, about the timestamp server, about all the things that could still go wrong in ways she couldn't predict. I can promise you that we're doing everything we can to make sure it doesn't happen again, she said. I can promise you that we've identified what went wrong and fixed it. And I can promise you that I brought in someone whose only job is to catch these things before they hurt people. That's not really a promise, though, is it? That's just corporate speak for, we'll try harder. You're right, Isabella admitted. But it's the truth. I can't promise perfection. No one can. What I can promise is that we'll be transparent about what happened, that we'll implement better safeguards, and that if something like this happens again, we'll own it immediately. No spin, no deflection. Why should I believe you? Honestly, you probably shouldn't. You don't know me, and I've given you no reason to trust me. Isabella pressed her forehead against the cold glass. But I'm asking you to anyway. Drop the lawsuit. Let us make this right, and if we screw it up again, you can sue us for twice as much. She could hear Torres breathing on the other end of the line. My lawyer is going to kill me, he said finally. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. I need to think about it. Talk to my wife. That's fair. Take all the time you need. Isabella gave him her direct number. Call me when you decide, or don't. Either way, I meant what I said. I'm sorry. She hung up before he could respond. Behind her, Patricia looked like she might actually faint. Please tell me you didn't just give a plaintiff your direct number. I did. Isabella, that's the right thing to do. Isabella turned to face them both. We screwed up. We nearly destroyed a man's life. The least we can do is talk to him like he's a human being instead of a legal problem. But the lawsuit will proceed or it won't. That's his choice. Isabella sat down, suddenly exhausted. But I'm not going to hide behind lawyers and settlements and NDAs. Not this time. Amanda was watching her with an expression Isabella couldn't quite read. You've changed, she said quietly. Have I? 3 days ago, you would have let legal handle this. Followed the playbook. Now you're calling plaintiffs at 9 p.m. and promising transparency. Isabella thought about Ethan in the basement, about Chloe asking why her dad pushed a mop, about her father dying at his desk, still chasing something he never quite reached. Maybe I'm tired of the playbook, she said. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Michael Torres. I talked to my wife. We'll drop the lawsuit on one condition. Isabella's heart kicked into a higher gear. She showed the phone to Amanda and Patricia. What condition? Amanda asked. Isabella typed, name it. The response came quickly. You publish a full report on what went wrong, technical details, timeline, everything. Make it public so other companies can learn from it. And you fund an independent audit of all your AI systems, not your own people. Third party. Patricia was shaking her head before Isabella finished reading. We can't do that. It's exposing ourselves to massive liability. Every client who's ever used our systems could claim, we'll do it, Isabella said. Isabella, we'll do it, she repeated, typing the response. Both conditions. You have my word. She hit send before anyone could stop her. Patricia sat down heavily. You just created a nightmare for legal. Good thing you're so competent. Isabella stood. Draft the agreement. Full transparency, independent audit, everything he asked for. And Patricia? No fine print, no loopholes. For doing this, we're actually doing it. Patricia nodded slowly, looking shell-shocked. You're either brilliant or insane. Probably both. Isabella grabbed her bag. Amanda, I need you to find the best independent auditing firm in the country. Cost is no object. And I want Ethan Cole involved in every step. The maintenance guy? The consultant. He's officially on the team now. Isabella headed for the door. And someone call the PR department. We're going to need a statement ready for when this goes public. She made it to the elevator before her hands started shaking. Adrenaline, probably. Or terror. Or the realization that she'd just bet the company's reputation on doing the right thing instead of the profitable thing. The elevator doors opened and she stepped in, alone. Her reflection in the doors looked different somehow. Same tired eyes, same expensive suit. But something had shifted. Her phone rang. Ethan. I heard, he said without preamble, about Torres, about what you promised him. News travels fast. Marcus texted me. He's worried you've lost your mind. Have I? Maybe. She could hear the smile in his voice. But I think I like the crazy version better. Good, because I need you to help me deliver on those promises. Independent audit starts next week. You're leading it. Whoa, hang on. You wanted to make sure we weren't building anything dangerous? This is your chance. Full access, no restrictions, and the authority to shut down anything you don't like. That's the deal. Ethan was quiet for a moment. You're serious. When am I not serious? Fair point. He exhaled slowly. Okay, yeah, I'll do it, but I'm going to need help. This isn't a one-person job. Hire whoever you need, full budget authority. Isabella, I trust you, Ethan. Don't make me regret it. She hung up before he could argue, stepped out of the elevator into the lobby. The building was mostly empty now, just security guards and the night cleaning crew, including a young guy with a tool belt who looked vaguely familiar. Tony, that was his name. Ethan's apprentice, or whatever. Ms. Hart, he said, straightening up quickly. Tony, working late? Yes, ma'am. Ethan showed me how to fix that sensor array earlier. Wanted to practice. Isabella paused. He's a good teacher? The best. He explains things so they actually make sense, you know? Not like I'm stupid for not getting it right away. Tony hesitated. Is it true? That he used to be some kind of AI genius? Where'd you hear that? People talk, maintenance guys, we hear things. He looked embarrassed. I probably shouldn't have said anything. It's fine. Isabella considered him. He was brilliant, still is. He just decided there were more important things than being brilliant. Like what? Like being a good father, like fixing things that actually matter. She smiled. Like teaching people who want to learn. Tony nodded slowly, processing this. That's pretty cool. Yeah, Isabella said. It really is. She walked out into the night, feeling lighter than she had in years. Tomorrow, she'd face the board. They'd be furious about the Torres situation, about the promises she'd made, about putting Ethan in charge of the audit. There would be arguments, possibly resignations, definitely threats. But tonight, walking through the city with no particular destination, Isabella felt something she hadn't felt since she'd inherited her father's company. She felt free. The board meeting started exactly how Isabella expected it to, badly. You did what? Richard Thornton, the oldest board member and her father's former business partner, looked like he was about to have a stroke. His face had gone from its usual pink to an alarming shade of purple. You gave this man carte blanche to audit our entire operation? Not carte blanche, Isabella said calmly, though her hands were clenched under the table. I gave him the authority to assess our AI systems for potential risks. That's exactly carte blanche. Richard slammed his hand on the mahogany table. You've handed the keys to the kingdom to some maintenance worker we know nothing about. What's his background check look like? His credentials? His credentials include an MIT degree and 3 years as a senior architect at Prometheus AI, Isabella interrupted. His background check is clean, and he's the reason we still have a company to argue about. So you've said. This from Diana Morse, the venture capitalist who'd pushed hard for the company's last funding round. She was younger than Richard, sharper, and somehow more intimidating for it. But one good call doesn't make someone qualified to audit a billion-dollar operation. Neither does sitting in a boardroom collecting fees, Isabella shot back. When was the last time any of you actually looked at our code? Understood what our engineers were building? The silence that followed was damning. That's what we pay technical staff for, Richard said stiffly. Right, the same technical staff that missed a timestamp server error for 6 months. Isabella leaned forward. I'm not questioning their competence. I'm questioning whether we have adequate oversight, and clearly we don't. Diana tapped her pen against her tablet, a nervous habit Isabella had learned to dread. Walk me through the Torres situation again, because from where I'm sitting, you made promises that expose us to catastrophic liability. Isabella had prepared for this, stayed up until 3 a.m. with Patricia, running through every possible angle, but preparation didn't make it easier. Michael Torres was told by our AI that he had stage 3 cancer, she said. He spent 3 hours thinking he was dying, called his wife, his children, started planning his funeral. All because our system had a corrupted timestamp and couldn't tell the difference between a sprained ankle and a malignant tumor. We understand the severity, Diana said. What we don't understand is why you committed to a public audit and full transparency without consulting us first. Because it was the right thing to do. The right thing. Richard's voice dripped with condescension. Isabella, your father built this company on smart business decisions, not moral grandstanding. The right thing was to settle quietly, sign an NDA, and move on. My father built this company on trust, Isabella countered. Her voice was getting louder and she didn't care. People trusted us to build systems that worked, that helped them. We violated that trust. The least we can do is be honest about it. Honesty doesn't pay the bills. Neither does bankruptcy. And that's where we're headed if clients keep leaving. Isabella pulled up a presentation on the main screen. We've lost 12 major contracts in the past week. 43 smaller clients have suspended their accounts pending review. Our stock price is down 18%. We're hemorrhaging money and trust, and your solution is to hide behind NDAs? The numbers on the screen spoke louder than she could. She watched the board members' faces as they absorbed the damage, saw the calculation happening behind their eyes. The independent audit was the price of Torres dropping his lawsuit, she continued, but it's also our best path forward. We do this publicly, transparently. We show clients that we're serious about fixing our problems, that we're not just covering them up. Or we look weak, Diana said. Incompetent, like we can't manage our own systems. We are incompetent, at least right now. The audit will prove it. Isabella clicked to the next slide. But it'll also show what we're doing to fix it. Ethan's already identified 3 other potential failure points in systems that are currently live. 3 more disasters waiting to happen. Would you rather we found them, or would you rather wait for them to blow up in our faces? Richard was shaking his head. This is insane. You're gambling the company's future on the word of a janitor. Maintenance technician, Isabella corrected automatically. And I'm gambling on someone who actually understands the systems we're building, which is more than I can say for most of the people in this room. The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. Richard looked like he was going to explode. Diana's pen tapping got faster. The other board members, there were 6 total, but only these 2 really mattered, exchanged nervous glances. I think what Richard is trying to say, Diana said carefully, is that this is a significant strategic shift, one that requires board approval. According to the bylaws, I have authority to make operational decisions without board approval, Isabella said. This is an operational decision. Hiring a consultant to audit the entire company is hardly operational. He's already found critical flaws. I'd say that makes it very operational. Isabella stood. She'd learned this trick from her father. Stand up, take control of the physical space. Make them look up at you. Look, I understand your concerns. I do. But we're past the point where we can afford to play it safe. We nearly collapsed. We're still bleeding, and the only person who's given me a clear path forward is Ethan Cole. So we're supposed to just trust your judgment? Richard stood too, not willing to cede the power dynamic. After you've made unilateral decisions that could destroy us? You're supposed to trust that I want this company to survive as much as you do. More maybe, since my name is on the building. Isabella met his eyes. My father trusted you, Richard. He made you a partner, gave you equity, brought you into his inner circle. I'm asking you to extend me the same courtesy. It was a low blow, invoking her father. She knew it. Richard knew it. But it worked. His expression softened, just slightly. Your father would have consulted us first, he said, but his voice had lost its edge. My father would have seen a problem and fixed it. That's what I'm doing. Isabella sat back down, trying to project confidence she didn't entirely feel. Give me 3 months. Let Ethan complete his audit. If at the end of that time we're worse off, I'll step down. You can bring in someone else to run the company. The room went silent. Diana's pen stopped tapping. You're serious, Diana said. You'd step down? If I'm wrong about this, I don't deserve to be CEO. Isabella forced herself to hold Diana's gaze. But I'm not wrong. I know I'm not. Richard and Diana looked at each other, some kind of silent communication passing between them. The other board members waited, understanding that whatever happened next would be decided by these 2. 3 months, Diana said finally. But we want weekly reports, full transparency on the audit's findings. And if this tanks our stock price, it won't. If it does, you're out. No golden parachute, no severance package. You just go. Isabella swallowed hard. Agreed. Richard still looked unhappy, but he nodded. 3 months. But Isabella? Your father built this company over 30 years. Don't destroy it in 3 months because you've got a crush on some maintenance worker. The comment was designed to sting, and it did. But Isabella kept her face neutral. This has nothing to do with crushes and everything to do with survival. You'll see. She walked out of the boardroom before anyone could see her hands shaking. Amanda was waiting in the hallway, trying very hard to look like she hadn't been listening through the door. Well, 3 months. If Ethan's audit doesn't work out, I'm done. Isabella, it'll work out. Isabella started walking toward her office, Amanda hurrying to keep pace. It has to. And if it doesn't, then I'll update my LinkedIn profile and figure out what CEOs do when they're unemployed. She pushed open her office door. How's Ethan doing? According to Marcus, he's been holed up in the server room for 18 hours straight. Won't come out. Won't take breaks. Just keeps digging through code like he's looking for buried treasure. Isabella checked her watch. Almost noon. Send someone down with food, real food, not vending machine garbage. Already did. He sent it back untouched. Stubborn man. Takes one to know one. Amanda pulled up something on her tablet. He's assembled a team, 4 people, all freelancers, 2 former academics, a security researcher, and some woman who used to work for the NSA. Can we trust them? Ethan trusts them. That'll have to be good enough. Amanda hesitated. Isabella, are you sure about this? I mean, really sure? Because you just bet your career on a man you met less than a week ago. I know. That's not exactly reassuring. Isabella sat down at her desk, pulled up the company's real-time dashboard. Revenue, client retention, system status, all of it flowing across multiple screens and numbers and graphs that should have made sense, but mostly just looked like chaos. When my father died, she said quietly, I was terrified. 25 years old, business degree still fresh, and suddenly I was responsible for 300 employees and their families. You know what everyone told me? What? Trust the numbers, follow the data. Make decisions based on metrics and analysis, not feelings. Isabella gestured at the screens. So I did. For 15 years I trusted the numbers, built the company on them, and the numbers nearly destroyed us because they couldn't tell me that a timestamp server was slowly poisoning everything we'd built. So now you're trusting feelings instead? I'm trusting instinct. There's a difference. Isabella looked up at Amanda. My instinct says Ethan Cole is the real deal, that he sees things we're missing. And my instinct has kept this company alive when the numbers said we should have failed. Amanda was quiet for a moment, then she smiled. Your father would have liked him. Ethan, I mean. He always respected people who weren't afraid to tell him he was wrong. Did he? I barely remember that side of him. He hit it well. Very well. But yeah, he valued honesty over flattery. Said yes men would destroy a company faster than any competitor. Amanda headed for the door. I'll make sure Ethan gets everything he needs, even if he won't eat. She left Isabella alone with her screens and her doubts. The intercom buzzed. Ms. Hart, you have a visitor. She says it's personal. Isabella frowned. Who is it? She says her name is Chloe Cole. Isabella's heart did something complicated. Send her in. The door opened and there she was, 7 years old, dinosaur backpack, hair in those same lopsided pigtails. But instead of the cheerful energy from the park, Chloe looked worried. Hi, Isabella said, coming around the desk. Chloe, right? Is everything okay? I don't know. Chloe's voice was small. Dad didn't pick me up from school. Isabella felt her stomach drop. What? Mrs. Chen waited with me, but Dad's always on time. Always. She tried calling him, but he didn't answer, so she called the emergency number and they said he was here, at your building, so she brought me here because... Chloe's voice cracked. Is my dad okay? He's fine, Isabella said quickly, kneeling down to Chloe's level. He's working on something important, and he probably just lost track of time. Adults do that sometimes. Dad doesn't. He always picks me up. Even when he's sick or tired, he's always there. The worry in Chloe's eyes was so raw, so genuine, that Isabella felt something crack in her chest. This was what Ethan was protecting, this little person who needed him to be reliable, to be present, to not disappear into work the way Isabella had disappeared from everyone who'd ever cared about her. Okay, Isabella said. Let's go find him, together. How's that sound? Chloe nodded, relief flooding her face. Isabella took her hand, small, warm, trusting, and led her to the elevator. They rode down in silence, Chloe clutching her backpack straps, Isabella mentally running through what she was going to say to Ethan about forgetting to pick up his daughter. The server room was in the basement, behind 3 security doors that Isabella had to badge through. The air got cooler with each door, the hum of machinery getting louder. Through the final door, and there was Ethan. Exactly where Amanda had said he'd be, surrounded by monitors, cables snaking everywhere. His team clustered around him, pointing at code that scrolled past faster than Isabella could track. So if we isolate the training pipeline here, one of them was saying, we can see where the data corruption— Dad! Ethan's head snapped up. For a second he looked confused, like he couldn't quite place the voice. Then his eyes found Chloe and his face went white. Oh no, no. He checked his watch, looked genuinely stricken. Chloe, I'm so sorry. Chloe ran to him. He caught her, pulled her into a hug that looked equal parts relief and guilt. I got scared, Chloe said into his shoulder. You weren't there. I know. I'm sorry. I lost track of time. Ethan looked at Isabella over his daughter's head. How did she— Her teacher called the building. They brought her here. Isabella crossed her arms. You've been down here for 18 hours? It's important, we found. More important than your daughter? The words came out harsher than Isabella intended. Ethan flinched like she'd slapped him. That's not fair, he said quietly. Isn't it? You told me Chloe comes first, always. No guilt trips, no passive-aggressive comments. Those were your words. Isabella gestured around the server room. This is exactly the world you said you left behind, the one where work matters more than people. Ethan's jaw tightened. His team had gone very quiet, trying to pretend they weren't listening to their new boss get chewed out. You're right, he said finally. You're absolutely right. I screwed up. He set Chloe down, crouched to her level. Kiddo, I'm sorry. I made a promise and I broke it. That's not okay. You were working? Yeah, but that's not an excuse. Nothing is more important than you. Nothing. He touched her cheek. Can you forgive me? Chloe nodded, but her eyes were still worried. Are you okay, though? You look really tired. I'm tired. And I'm done for today. Ethan stood, started gathering his things. Let's go home. We can order pizza, watch a movie, whatever you want. But the audit, one of his team members started, can wait until tomorrow. Ethan's voice was firm. Send me what you found. I'll review it tonight after Chloe goes to bed. He took his daughter's hand and started for the door. Isabella stepped aside to let them pass. Ethan, she said as he walked by. He stopped but didn't look at her. I'm sorry, Isabella said. I shouldn't have— That wasn't fair of me. No, it was fair. It was exactly what I needed to hear. He met her eyes then, and she saw something complicated there. Anger, maybe, or disappointment. I told you I was different from the people in your world. Turns out, I'm not. Put me in front of a problem and I forget everything else, just like I did at Prometheus. That's not— It is, and it's exactly why I left. He looked down at Chloe. Come on, kiddo. Let's get out of here. They left. Isabella stood in the doorway, watching them disappear down the corridor, feeling like she'd just made a terrible mistake, but not quite sure what else she could have done. Behind her, Ethan's team was packing up too, the energy drained from the room. Is he coming back? The woman who'd worked for the NSA asked. Her name was Sarah, Isabella remembered. Sarah Chen, no relation to Patricia. I don't know, Isabella admitted. That would be a shame. Sarah pulled up something on her laptop, turned it so Isabella could see. Lines of code, annotated with notes in red. He's brilliant, found things in 4 hours that would have taken us weeks, maybe months. What kind of things? The scary kind. Backdoors that shouldn't exist. Training data that's been subtly manipulated. Entire systems that are doing things they weren't designed to do. Sarah's expression was grim. Ms. Hart, I've done security audits for the Defense Department. This is worse. Not because the problems are more sophisticated, they're not. But because they're more pervasive. It's like someone built a house and forgot to include foundations. Isabella felt cold. How bad are we talking? Bad enough that if a bad actor wanted to weaponize your systems, they could. Bad enough that shutting down might actually be safer than continuing to operate. Sarah closed her laptop. But Ethan thinks we can fix it. He's got ideas, solutions, things I've never even considered. That's why we need him. Without him, this audit is just going to be a list of everything that's broken with no roadmap for repair. Then we'd better make sure he comes back, Isabella said. She left the server room, took the elevator back up to her office. The afternoon had somehow turned to evening. Her assistant had left a stack of messages, board members wanting updates, clients wanting reassurance, reporters wanting comments. Isabella ignored all of them. Instead, she pulled out her phone and typed a message to Ethan. I was out of line. You don't work for me, you work with me. There's a difference. Take whatever time you need with Chloe. The audit can wait. She hesitated, then added, For what it's worth, she's lucky to have you, and I'm sorry I made you doubt that. She hit send before she could overthink it. The response came faster than she expected. Thank you. I needed to hear that too. Then a moment later, I'll be back tomorrow. We've got too much to fix to waste time on guilt. Isabella smiled despite herself. Stubborn man indeed. She worked late into the evening, dealing with the messages she'd ignored, putting out fires, managing crises. The usual. But something felt different, lighter, maybe. Or at least less suffocating. Around 9 p.m., Marcus stuck his head in. You're still here? So are you. Fair point. He came in, sat down across from her. Heard about what happened with Ethan's kid. News travels fast. It does when you chew out a consultant in front of his entire team. Marcus smiled, taking the sting out of the words. For what it's worth, I think you were right to call him out. He was burning himself out down there. Wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep, just kept digging and digging. He found something, didn't he? Something bad. Multiple somethings, all bad. Marcus pulled up a file on his phone, showed her a summary. We've got 3 critical vulnerabilities, 7 high-priority issues, and about 40 medium-priority concerns. And that's just in the systems we've audited so far. We're maybe 20% through the full sweep. Isabella scanned the list, her stomach sinking with each line. This is going to cost millions to fix. Try tens of millions, maybe hundreds, depending on how deep the rot goes. Marcus pocketed his phone. But Ethan's right, we can fix it. It'll take time, money, effort, but it's fixable. That's more than I thought a week ago. You really think he's the real deal? I think he's the only person I've met who actually understands what we're building and why it matters. Most engineers just see problems and solutions. Ethan sees consequences. He looks at a line of code and asks who it might hurt. Marcus stood. That's rare, especially in our field. After he left, Isabella sat alone in her office, staring at the summary of everything that was broken. It should have been overwhelming, should have sent her into panic mode, scrambling for solutions. Instead, she felt something unexpected. Hope. Because for the first time in years, she wasn't facing these problems alone. Wasn't pretending she had all the answers while secretly drowning in doubt. She had Ethan. Complicated, stubborn, brilliant Ethan, who'd walked away from everything to keep his soul intact and was now back in the fight because she'd asked him to be. She had a team who cared more about fixing things than covering them up. And she had 3 months to prove that transparency mattered more than reputation, that doing the right thing was worth the cost. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. Still coming Sunday? I'm making extra lasagna in case you bring someone. Isabella smiled. I'll be there. Just me, though. Bring someone next time. You work too much. I know, Mom. I'm working on it. And for once, she actually meant it. She packed up her things, turned off the lights, and headed home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new crises, new reasons to doubt herself. But tonight, walking through the quiet building, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she was finally building something worth keeping. The night security guard nodded as she passed. Good night, Ms. Hart. Good night, James. Outside, the city had settled into its late evening rhythm. Fewer cars, quieter streets, the kind of peace that only came after the rush had ended. Isabella breathed it in, let it fill her lungs. Then she started walking, no particular destination in mind, just moving, existing, being something other than a CEO for a few stolen moments. Her phone stayed silent. No emergencies, no crises, just quiet. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Isabella was okay with that. The quiet lasted exactly 12 hours. Isabella was in her apartment, actually sleeping for once, when her phone exploded with notifications. She grabbed it off the nightstand, squinting at the screen in the pre-dawn darkness. 47 missed calls, 63 texts, and counting. The first message was from Amanda, sent at 4:17 a.m. Turn on the news, now. Isabella's stomach dropped. She fumbled for the TV remote, clicked to the business news channel. It took her a moment to process what she was seeing. Her face. on national television, next to a headline that read, Heart Industries CEO admits massive AI failures. Sources say the company's own internal audit has revealed systemic problems across multiple AI platforms, the anchor was saying. This comes just days after a lawsuit was filed by Michael Torres, who claims Heart Industries' medical diagnostic system nearly convinced him he had terminal cancer. Isabella muted it, her hands shaking. How did this get out? The audit was supposed to be confidential until they had actual findings, until they had solutions. Her phone rang. Richard Thornton. She answered, Richard, emergency board meeting, 1 hour, don't be late. He hung up. Next call, Diana Morse. Please tell me you didn't leak this, Diana said without preamble. Of course I didn't. Then who did? Because someone talked to the press, and now our stock is in free fall. We're down 23% in pre-market trading, and the market doesn't even open for 2 hours. Isabella closed her eyes. I don't know, but I'll find out. You'd better, because if this was sabotage from inside your own team, it wasn't. You don't know that. I know my people. Do you? Diana's laugh was bitter. You barely know the janitor you put in charge of the audit. Maybe he decided to cash in on some insider information. Wouldn't be the first time. Something hot and defensive flared in Isabella's chest. Ethan wouldn't do that. How do you know? Because I know. That's not good enough. Not anymore. Diana's voice went cold. 1 hour. And Isabella? You'd better have answers. She hung up. Isabella sat on the edge of her bed, still in her pajamas, watching her phone light up with more calls, more messages, more people demanding explanations she didn't have. She called Ethan. He answered on the second ring, sounding wide awake. I saw. No. Neither did anyone on my team. I made them all sign NDAs with teeth. This came from somewhere else. Isabella felt some of the tension ease. She'd believed him when she told Diana he wouldn't leak, but hearing him say it helped. Who then? I don't know, but Isabella, this might not be entirely bad. How is this possibly not bad? Because the story's already out there. We can't unring the bell, but we can control the narrative. She could hear him moving, probably pacing. He did that when he was thinking. The audit findings? They're damning, but they also show we're taking responsibility, that we're not hiding. The board is going to crucify me. Let them. You promised transparency. This is what transparency looks like. He paused. Hold on. Chloe's asking, yeah, kiddo, I'm talking to my boss. No, you can't have cookies for breakfast, because cookies aren't breakfast food. I don't care what the dinosaurs would eat. Despite everything, Isabella almost smiled. I should let you go. You should. But Isabella, don't back down. We're doing the right thing. It just doesn't feel like it yet. After he hung up, Isabella sat in the silence of her apartment and tried to remember the last time someone had told her she was doing the right thing. Not the profitable thing, not the strategic thing. The right thing. She couldn't. She got dressed, power suit, the armor she wore when she needed to feel invincible, and headed to the office. The streets were still mostly empty, the city not quite awake. But her phone kept buzzing, kept screaming with the sound of everything falling apart. The boardroom was packed when she arrived. Not just the usual members, but lawyers, PR consultants, crisis managers, people who got paid obscene amounts to make problems disappear. Richard started talking before Isabella even sat down. 38%, he said. That's how far our stock has fallen in the last hour. 38%. That's billions in market value. Gone. Because someone decided to air our dirty laundry on national television. I didn't leak this, Isabella said. Then who did? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Patricia Chen, the head of legal, spoke up. We've already filed requests with the news networks to reveal their sources. But you know how that goes. They'll claim journalistic privilege, drag it out in court. So we're screwed, one of the other board members said. Isabella thought his name was Gerald. Or maybe Gerald had been the one who'd resigned last year. She could never keep them straight. We're not screwed, Isabella said. We're exposed. There's a difference. Please enlighten us on the difference, Richard said acidly. Isabella walked to the front of the room, plugged her laptop into the presentation system. The difference is that exposed means people can see what we're doing to fix the problems. Screwed means we have no solutions and no plan. She pulled up Ethan's preliminary audit findings. The room went quiet as they read through the list of vulnerabilities, failures, systemic issues. This is what we're dealing with, Isabella said. These are real problems that could have destroyed us if we'd ignored them. The fact that they're public now doesn't change that they exist. It just changes whether we can pretend they don't. So your solution is to admit we're a disaster? Diana said. My solution is to admit we have problems and show how we're fixing them. Isabella clicked to the next slide. Ethan's proposed remediation plan. We're not hiding, we're not deflecting. We're taking responsibility and doing the work. That's a nice speech, Richard said. But speeches don't restore stock value. Speeches don't bring back clients. What exactly are you proposing? A press conference. Today, we released the full audit findings. The room erupted. Voices shouting over each other, lawyers insisting she was insane, PR people trying to calculate the damage. Isabella waited for them to exhaust themselves. And we show exactly how we're fixing each issue, she continued once the noise died down. We bring in Ethan and his team. We walk through the problems and the solutions. We show that we're not just aware of the failures, we're actively addressing them. You want to put a maintenance worker in front of cameras? Richard looked genuinely shocked. Have you lost your mind? He's not a maintenance worker. He's the lead auditor, and he's the most qualified person in this company to explain what went wrong and how we're fixing it. Isabella met Richard's eyes. Unless you'd rather I put up one of our executives who missed all of this in the first place. That landed. Richard's mouth opened and closed. This is still incredibly risky, Diana said, but her tone had shifted. She was considering it. If we botch this, we're finished. If we hide, we're finished anyway, Isabella countered. At least this way we control the message. One of the crisis managers, a woman named Karen, who probably charged more per hour than most people made in a month, leaned forward. I hate to say it, but she's right. The story's out there. We can either let it define us or we define it ourselves. A press conference, done right, could actually help. Done right being the key phrase, Patricia said. Isabella, if you go up there and this goes sideways, it won't. You can't promise that. No, I can't. But I can promise that doing nothing is worse. Isabella looked around the room. I need a decision. Are we doing this or not? The silence stretched. Then Diana nodded. Do it. But I want full message control, every word scripted, every question anticipated, no improvising. Agreed. And Isabella? Diana's expression was hard. If this doesn't work, you're done. Not in 3 months. Today. Isabella felt the weight of it, the finality, but she nodded. Understood. The next 4 hours were chaos. PR teams drafting statements, lawyers reviewing every word, Karen and her crisis management team running through worst-case scenarios. Isabella sat through all of it, making changes, approving language, trying not to think about how badly this could go. Ethan arrived around noon with his team. He'd traded his maintenance uniform for jeans and a button-down shirt that looked like it hadn't been ironed in a year. Sarah Chen had dressed professionally, blazer, slacks, the NSA training showing through. The others fell somewhere in between. You ready for this? Isabella asked Ethan quietly while the PR team set up the conference room. No, but I'm doing it anyway. He looked at the prepared remarks she'd handed him. This is too corporate, too safe. The lawyers need safe. The lawyers aren't the ones who have to sell this. He crossed out half the text. People don't trust corporate speak anymore. They trust honesty, so let me be honest. Ethan, you brought me in to see things differently. Let me do that. He met her eyes. Trust me. Isabella thought about the timestamp server, about Chloe waiting at school, about all the times in the past week when trusting Ethan had been exactly the right call. Okay, she said. Do it your way. Karen looked horrified when she saw what Ethan had done to the script. You can't say this. It's too direct, too confrontational. It's too honest, you mean, Ethan said. Honesty doesn't always play well in a crisis. Maybe that's why we keep having crises. The press conference was set for 2 p.m. in the main auditorium. By 1:45, the room was packed. Reporters from every major outlet, cameras everywhere. The energy electric with anticipation of watching a company implode in real time. Isabella stood backstage with Ethan and his team, listening to the crowd noise, feeling her heart trying to beat its way out of her chest. "You don't have to do this," Ethan said quietly. "I can handle the technical part. You don't need to be up there." "Yes, I do. This is my company, my responsibility." Isabella smoothed down her jacket for the 10th time. "Besides, if we're going down together." Optimistic. Realistic. Amanda appeared with a headset and a clipboard. 5 minutes. "Isabella, you're up first. Keep it short. 3 minutes max. Then introduce Ethan and get out of the way." "That's the plan." "Good. Because if you deviate from the plan..." "I know. We're doomed. I've heard." Isabella took a breath. "Anything I should know about the crowd?" Front row is mostly tech press. They'll ask the hard questions. Back rows are financial media. They just want to know about the stock price. And there's some guy from a consumer advocacy group who's been trying to get your attention all week. He's not friendly. "Great. Anything else?" "Yeah." Amanda's expression softened. "You've got this. I've watched you handle worse." "Have you, though?" "Okay, no. This is definitely the worst, but still, you've got this." The 5 minutes evaporated. Then Isabella was walking onto the stage, the lights bright enough to make her eyes water, cameras clicking like a swarm of mechanical insects. She stepped up to the podium, looked out at all those faces waiting for her to fail, and felt something settle in her chest. Calm. Or maybe just acceptance that whatever happened next was out of her control. "Thank you for coming," she said. Her voice carried through the room, steady despite the fear. "I'm going to be direct because I think we're past the point where corporate spin helps anyone. Hart Industries has systemic problems with our AI systems. We discovered them through our own internal audit, and we're working to fix them. The fact that you know about this audit before we intended is unfortunate, but it doesn't change the reality of what we're doing." She could see reporters leaning forward, surprised by the directness. "I'm not here to make excuses or minimize what's happened. People trusted our systems and those systems failed. That's on us. On me. What I can tell you is that we're not hiding from it. We're not settling quietly or hoping it goes away. We're doing the hard work of actually fixing the root causes." Isabella gestured to the side of the stage. "To explain what we found and how we're addressing it, I'm turning this over to Ethan Cole, who's leading our independent audit. Ethan has no reason to protect this company's reputation. He's not an employee, he has no equity, and until 2 weeks ago, he'd never heard of most of our systems. What he does have is expertise and integrity, so I'm going to step aside and let him tell you the truth." She walked off the stage, passing Ethan as he walked on. He looked terrified for about half a second, then his face settled into that same calm she'd seen in the server room. He didn't use the podium, just stood center stage, hands in his pockets, like he was having a conversation instead of addressing a room full of hostile journalists. "Hi," he said. "I'm Ethan. I used to build AI systems. Then I stopped because I didn't like what they were becoming. And now I'm back because someone asked me to help fix them." The room was silent. Isabella watched from the wings, barely breathing. "Hart Industries' systems are broken," Ethan continued. "Not because the engineers are incompetent. They're not. Not because the company doesn't care. They do. They're broken because this entire industry has been moving too fast, prioritizing speed over safety, innovation over responsibility. Hart Industries isn't unique in that. They're just the ones who got caught." A reporter shouted a question. Ethan ignored it. "Here's what we found. Timestamp synchronization errors that corrupted training data. Backdoors in systems that shouldn't have them. Training datasets that amplify existing biases. Security vulnerabilities that could be exploited. And poor oversight that let all of this happen without anyone noticing." He pulled out his phone, projected an image onto the screen behind him. A technical diagram that probably meant nothing to most of the audience, but looked impressively complicated. "This is one system. Just one. And these red marks? Those are failure points. Places where things could go catastrophically wrong. We found 47 of them in this system alone. Now multiply that across every AI platform Hart Industries has deployed." The crowd was murmuring now, cameras clicking faster. "But here's the thing about failure points," Ethan said. "Once you know where they are, you can fix them. Every single one of these has a solution. Some are simple, better testing protocols, improved oversight. Some are complex, complete system redesigns, new training methodologies. But they're all fixable." Another reporter shouted, "How long will that take?" Ethan looked directly at her. 6 months for critical fixes. 18 months for comprehensive remediation. And ongoing vigilance forever because technology doesn't stand still and neither do the ways it can fail. What about the patients who were misdiagnosed? That was unconscionable. It shouldn't have happened. And it won't happen again because we're implementing triple verification protocols for any medical AI before it ever touches a patient. Ethan's voice got harder. But let me be clear, the problem wasn't the AI having a bad day. The problem was humans not asking hard enough questions about what the AI was doing and why. Are you saying Hart Industries was negligent? I'm saying the entire industry has been negligent. We've been so focused on what AI can do that we forgot to ask what it should do. Hart Industries is just the first to admit it publicly. The questions came faster now, overlapping, aggressive. But Ethan held his ground. He didn't deflect, didn't dance around the hard truths, just answered directly, sometimes brutally so. Isabella watched him dismantle every defensive strategy the PR team had planned, and somehow make it work better than any script could have. After 45 minutes, Karen finally stepped in to end it. That's all the time we have. Full audit findings will be posted on our website within the hour. Thank you. The reporters kept shouting questions as Ethan walked off stage. He looked exhausted, wrung out, but also oddly energized. How bad? He asked Isabella. I have no idea. Could be career suicide. Could be brilliant. She checked her phone. The stock price had stabilized, no longer in free fall. That was something. You definitely didn't follow the script. No. You made promises on behalf of the company without clearing them first. I did. And you basically called the entire AI industry negligent on live television. Yep. Ethan looked at her. Are you firing me? Isabella laughed, surprising herself. Are you kidding? That was the most honest thing I've ever seen in a press conference. If we survive this, it'll be because of that. And if we don't? Then we'll go down telling the truth. I can live with that. Her phone rang. Diana Morse. Isabella answered, bracing for the worst. Diana, the calls are already coming in, Diana said. Her voice was strange, not angry, almost impressed. 3 major clients just reached out. They want to stay, want to be part of the remediation process. Isabella's heart stuttered. What? Apparently people appreciate honesty. Who knew? Diana paused. The stock's recovering too. Not all the way, but trending up. I think this might actually work. After she hung up, Isabella just stood there, trying to process what had happened. Amanda appeared, grinning wider than Isabella had seen in years. The website crashed from traffic. Everyone's trying to read the full audit. It's scrambling to bring more servers online. Is that good? It's amazing. We're trending on every social platform, and the narrative, Amanda showed her phone. Headlines loading in real time. Tech CEO shows radical transparency. Hart Industries admits failures, promises fixes. Can honesty save a company? They're not all positive, Amanda warned. There's plenty of criticism, plenty of people calling for your resignation, saying it's too little, too late. But it's not all negative. No, not all negative, maybe not even mostly negative. Amanda looked at Ethan. You did good up there. I mostly just told the truth. Yeah, turns out that's revolutionary in this industry. The rest of the day was a blur. More calls, more meetings, the PR team analyzing every second of the press conference, trying to capitalize on the unexpected positive response. Ethan and his team went back to the audit, energized by the public commitment to actually fix things. By midnight, Isabella was alone in her office again, staring at her computer screen. The audit document had been downloaded 47,000 times. People were actually reading it, actually engaging with the technical details of what had gone wrong. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. This is Michael Torres. I saw the press conference. Thank you for being honest, for actually trying to fix things. That's all I wanted. Isabella felt something loosen in her chest. All of this, the risk, the exposure, the terrifying leap into radical transparency, it was worth it for that message alone. Another text, this one from Ethan. Chloe wants to know if you like dinosaurs. Apparently it's important. Isabella smiled. Tell her I do. Triceratops are my favorite. She says that's a good answer. You're allowed to come to dinner sometime. Is that an invitation? Maybe, if you promise not to bring work. I'll try. That's all anyone can do. Isabella set down her phone and looked around her office. Her father had sat at this desk for 30 years, building an empire brick by brick. She'd spent 15 years trying to maintain it, expand it, prove she was worthy of inheriting it. But maybe worthy wasn't about maintaining. Maybe it was about having the courage to tear down what was broken and build something better. Her computer pinged. An email from Richard Thornton sent to the full board. Emergency meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Agenda, CEO performance review. So they were still coming for her, still questioning whether she deserved to lead. But for the first time, Isabella didn't feel afraid of that question, because she knew the answer. She packed up her things, turned off the lights, and headed home. Tomorrow would bring new battles, new challenges, new reasons to doubt. But tonight she'd told the truth, and the world hadn't ended. That felt like enough. The CEO performance review started exactly on time, which Isabella had learned meant trouble. When board members showed up early, they'd already made their decision. She walked into the conference room at 8:57 a.m., carrying nothing but her phone and whatever dignity she had left. Richard and Diana were already seated, along with the other 4 board members whose names Isabella had finally bothered to memorize. Gerald, Patricia. Different. Patricia, not the lawyer. Thomas, and Jennifer. Isabella, Richard said, gesturing to the empty chair at the head of the table. Sit. She sat, waited. Let them have their moment of power. Diana spoke first. We've reviewed the fallout from yesterday's press conference, the stock price, the client responses, the media coverage, all of it. And it's complicated. Diana pulled up a presentation on the screen, numbers, graphs, sentiment analysis. Stocks down 12% overall from before the leak. That's better than the 38% free fall, but it's still substantial. We've also lost 7 major clients, Thomas added. He was the oldest board member after Richard, ran a hedge fund or private equity firm or something equally soulless. Combined annual revenue of $43 million. But we retained 9 clients who were considering leaving, Jennifer countered. She was newer to the board, actually seemed to have a conscience, and picked up 3 new ones who specifically cited yesterday's transparency as the reason they're interested. So we're net negative, Richard said flatly. In the short term, Jennifer agreed. Long term? This could actually strengthen the brand. Richard made a dismissive sound. Or it could be the beginning of a slow collapse. Death by 1,000 cuts disguised as honesty. Isabella had been quiet through all of this, letting them talk around her like she wasn't there. But something in Richard's tone, the certainty, the dismissiveness, finally made her speak. Do you know why my father made you a partner? She asked. Richard blinked, thrown by the shift. What does that have to do with humor me? He shifted uncomfortably. Because I helped him secure the Series B funding. Because I believed in the company when others didn't. No, Isabella said. I mean, yes, that's part of it. But the real reason he told me once, after too much scotch at a Christmas party, was because you were willing to tell him when he was wrong. When everyone else was saying yes, you'd say no. When everyone was scared, you'd ask the hard questions. Richard's jaw tightened. Your point? My point is that somewhere along the way, you stopped doing that. You stopped being the person who asks hard questions and started being the person who just wants safe answers. Isabella leaned forward. So let me ask you a hard question. Would you rather run a company that's slowly dying while pretending everything's fine, or one that's fighting to survive while admitting it's broken? That's a false choice. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, those were our only 2 options. Hide the problems and hope they don't destroy us or expose them and fight to fix them. I chose fighting. Diana tapped her pen against the table. That nervous habit Isabella had grown to hate. The issue isn't the choice you made. It's that you made it unilaterally, without consulting us, without building consensus. There wasn't time for consensus. There's always time for consensus. That's how boards work. Not when the building's on fire. Isabella looked around the table. You all saw the audit findings. You know how bad it was. We were facing systemic failure across multiple platforms, lawsuits that could have bankrupted us, and a client base that was already losing faith. What consensus would you have built? What safe, comfortable solution would have checked all the boxes and saved the company? Silence. The press conference was a gamble, Isabella continued. I know that, But it was a calculated gamble based on the fact that every other option led to slow death. At least this way, we have a chance. A chance? Richard repeated. You bet the company's future on a chance. I bet it on the truth. That's better odds than most companies get. Thomas spoke up, his voice measured. Even if we accept that the press conference was necessary, there's still the question of Ethan Cole. You've given him extraordinary authority over our operations, authority that typically requires board approval. He's a consultant reviewing our systems. That's well within my operational purview. He's effectively running the company's technical direction right now. That goes beyond consulting. Isabella couldn't argue with that. Ethan had become central to everything they were doing, every decision about what to fix and how. But admitting that felt like handing Richard ammunition. He's the most qualified person to assess and remediate our AI systems, she said instead. More qualified than anyone currently on staff, myself included. That may be true, Patricia, the board member, said. But it's also concerning that we're so dependent on one external contractor. What happens when he leaves? When he decides pushing a mop is safer than fixing our mess? The door to the conference room opened. Amanda stuck her head in, looking apologetic. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here who says it's urgent. We're in the middle of... Richard started. It's Ethan Cole, Amanda said. He says the board needs to hear what he found. Isabella's stomach dropped. Whatever Ethan had discovered, it was bad enough that he'd interrupted a board meeting. That was never good. Send him in, Diana said before Richard could object. Ethan walked in looking like he hadn't slept. His eyes were bloodshot, hair disheveled, the same clothes he'd worn yesterday. He nodded at Isabella, then addressed the board. Sorry for barging in, but we found something in the audit that can't wait. He pulled out his laptop, connected it to the room's display. 3 days ago, we discovered anomalies in the financial forecasting AI, the one that handles client investment portfolios. We know about the anomalies, Richard said impatiently. That's why we're doing the audit. These are different. Ethan pulled up a code comparison. The timestamp errors affected training data. But this? This is deliberate manipulation. Someone altered the core algorithm to prioritize certain trades over others. The room went very still. Are you saying someone sabotaged our system? Diana asked carefully. I'm saying someone modified it. Whether that's sabotage or something else, I don't know yet. Ethan highlighted a section of code. But these changes were made 6 months ago, right around the time of the timestamp server patch. They were hidden in a routine update, buried under legitimate bug fixes. Who made the changes? Thomas demanded. According to the commit logs, Marcus Webb. Isabella felt like she'd been punched. That's impossible. Marcus has been with the company for 8 years. I know who he is, Ethan said quietly, and I know this doesn't make sense, which is why I wanted to tell you before doing anything else. Richard was already on his phone. Security, I need you to detain Marcus Webb immediately. Don't let him leave the building. Wait, Isabella started. Wait nothing. If our CTO has been sabotaging our systems, we don't know that's what happened, Isabella said. Let me talk to him first. Absolutely not. This is a matter for law enforcement. It's a matter for getting the truth, Isabella shot back, which we won't get if you have him arrested before we know what actually happened. Diana held up a hand. Isabella has a point. We need facts, not assumptions. But this conversation happens with legal present, and security standing by. 10 minutes later, they were in Isabella's office. Marcus sat across from her, looking confused and increasingly worried. Patricia, the lawyer, sat to Isabella's left. 2 security guards waited outside the door. Marcus, Isabella said, I need you to be completely honest with me. Did you modify the financial forecasting algorithm 6 months ago? His confusion deepened. Which modifications? I made dozens of updates to that system. It's part of my job. Ethan pulled up the specific code changes on Isabella's monitor, turned it so Marcus could see. These, October 15th. Do you remember making these changes? Marcus studied the screen, his frown deepening. Then his face went pale. I didn't make these. Your credentials are all over the commit logs, Patricia said. I know, but I didn't write this code. Marcus's hands were shaking now. That date, October 15th, I was at a conference in Seattle. I gave a keynote. There are photos, video, 100 witnesses. Isabella felt something click. So someone used your credentials. That's the only explanation, but that should be impossible. We have two-factor authentication, biometric verification. Unless someone had access to your physical devices, Ethan said, your laptop, your phone, your security token. I had my laptop with me in Seattle, but my backup devices, Marcus stopped. They're in my desk. I keep a spare phone and security token in the locked drawer in case of emergencies. Who has access to your office? Patricia asked. Just me and the cleaning crew. And, Marcus looked at Ethan, and the maintenance staff. The implication hung in the air. Isabella saw Richard's accusation forming before he even spoke it, but Ethan got there first. The maintenance access logs. We can check who was in Marcus's office that day. He pulled up the building's security database, navigated to October 15th. The logs showed standard cleaning crew activity, various technicians coming and going for routine repairs. And there, at 11:47 p.m., a badge swipe for Marcus's office. Anthony Chen. Tony. The young maintenance worker Isabella had met in the lobby, the one Ethan had been training. Ethan's face went carefully blank. I need to make a call. He stepped out. Isabella heard him in the hallway. Tony, it's Ethan. I need you to come up to the executive floor right now. No, you're not in trouble. Just please. It's important. 15 minutes later, Tony sat where Marcus had been sitting, looking terrified. He was maybe 23, still had that unfinished quality of someone who hadn't quite figured out who they were yet. Tony, Ethan said gently, October 15th. You were in Marcus's office late at night. Why? There was a... Tony's voice cracked. There was a network router that needed replacing. I logged it in the maintenance system. Did you access Marcus's desk? Tony's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know what I was doing. I swear. This guy, he approached me a few weeks before. Said he worked for a competitor, wanted inside information about Hart Industries. Offered me $10,000 just to plug in a USB drive and run a program. Isabella felt cold. What program? He said it would copy some files. Just corporate documents, nothing illegal. I needed the money. My mom's medical bills were piling up, and $10,000 seemed like... He was crying now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know it would hurt anyone. The USB drive, Ethan said. It didn't just copy files. It cloned Marcus's credentials, gave someone remote access to make changes that looked like they came from him. Tony nodded miserably. The guy contacted me after, said the job was done, paid me through some cryptocurrency thing so it couldn't be traced. I didn't ask questions, I needed the money. Patricia was already on her phone with the FBI. Richard looked vindicated. But Isabella was watching Ethan's face, seeing the betrayal there. He'd trusted Tony, trained him, tried to give him opportunities. Who was the guy who hired you? Isabella asked. I don't know. We only met once in a coffee shop. He paid cash for the meeting, said never to contact him, that he'd reach out when he needed something else. Tony looked up, desperate. He never did. That was the only job, I swear. Can you describe him? Patricia asked. Tony did. Average height, average build, brown hair, glasses. Could have been anyone. The FBI arrived within an hour. They took Tony away along with his laptop, phone, every piece of evidence they could find. The investigation would take months, they said. Might never find who was behind it. Corporate espionage was hard to trace, especially when the perpetrators were smart. After they left, Isabella, Ethan, Marcus, and the board members sat in her office in exhausted silence. So it wasn't an inside job, Diana said finally. It was an outside attack using an insider as an unwitting accomplice. Unwitting is generous, Richard muttered. The kid took money to compromise our systems. The kid was desperate and got manipulated, Ethan said sharply. There's a difference. Is there? He still did it. Yeah, he did, and he'll face consequences for that. But let's not pretend this is just about one scared kid making a bad choice. This is about an industry where security is so lax that a 23-year-old maintenance worker could compromise a billion-dollar company with a USB drive. The truth of that settled over the room like a weight. Marcus spoke up, his voice rough. The changes he made to the algorithm, what exactly did they do? Ethan pulled up his analysis. They created a bias toward high-risk, high-reward trades for certain client portfolios. Whoever planted this could have known which trades would be prioritized and positioned themselves to profit from it. Insider trading, Patricia said, through sabotage, essentially, though proving it will be nearly impossible without knowing who orchestrated it. Ethan closed his laptop. But here's the thing, this wasn't the only attack vector we found. We've discovered 3 more instances of external access, all using similar techniques. Different staff members, different dates, but the same pattern. Someone's been systematically compromising Hart Industries for at least a year. Isabella felt numb. How much damage are we talking about? Financial? Hard to say. Could be millions, could be more. But the real damage is trust. If this gets out, and it will, eventually, clients are going to wonder what else has been compromised, what other systems have been tampered with. So what do we do? Diana asked. The question hung there. Everyone looked at Isabella, waiting for her to have an answer. She thought about her father, about the company he'd built, about 15 years of trying to prove she was worthy of leading it. She thought about Ethan walking away from Prometheus rather than compromise his values, about Chloe waiting at the school bus stop, trusting her father to be there, about the choice between what was profitable and what was right. We tell the truth, Isabella said. Again, Richard groaned. Are you serious? We just did a massive transparency push. Now you want to admit we've been systematically hacked? I want to admit that we discovered we've been systematically attacked. Yes. And that we're fixing it. All of it. Isabella stood. We shut down every compromised system. We rebuild from scratch with proper security protocols. We bring in external auditors to verify everything. And we tell our clients exactly what happened and what we're doing about it. That will take months, Thomas protested. Cost tens of millions. Maybe hundreds. I know. We'll lose more clients. Maybe all of them. Maybe. Or maybe they'll respect that we're choosing security over convenience, that we're willing to take the hit to do things right. Diana was watching her with an unreadable expression. This is the hill you're willing to die on? If I have to die on a hill, transparency seems like a good one. The board members exchanged looks, some kind of silent conversation Isabella wasn't part of. Then Diana nodded. Do it, she said. Full disclosure, complete rebuild, whatever it takes. But Isabella, she paused. This is the last gamble. If this doesn't work, if we lose the company doing the right thing, we're done. No more chances. I understand. After the board members left, it was just Isabella, Ethan, and Marcus. I'm sorry, Marcus said, about Tony, about all of this. I should have been more careful with my credentials. You followed standard security protocols, Ethan said. This isn't on you. It's on an industry that treats security as an afterthought until something breaks. Still, Marcus rubbed his face. I need to tell my team. They're going to have to rebuild everything they've built. Yeah, they will. Ethan clapped him on the shoulder. But at least this time they'll build it right. After Marcus left, Ethan and Isabella sat in silence. Outside the window, the city carried on, unaware that another crisis had been averted. Or maybe just postponed. You should fire me, Ethan said finally. Isabella looked at him, surprised. Why? I brought Tony into your world, vouched for him, trained him, and he was the vector for a major security breach. He was a kid who made a mistake that cost your company millions and could have destroyed it completely. Ethan? Isabella waited until he looked at her. If we started firing everyone who made mistakes, there'd be no one left. Not me, not you, not anyone. Tony screwed up. He'll face consequences, but that doesn't mean you failed him or us. Doesn't it? No, it means you saw potential in someone and tried to help them. That's not a mistake. That's just being human. She smiled tiredly. Besides, if I fired you, who'd finish the audit? Sarah could do it. She could, but I don't want her, I want you. Isabella leaned back in her chair. You know what I realized during that board meeting? When Richard was demanding answers and Diana was calculating risks? What? That I don't actually care about their approval anymore. Not the way I used to. I spent 15 years trying to prove I deserved my father's company, trying to be worthy of his legacy. She gestured around the office. But maybe the point wasn't to maintain what he built. Maybe it was to have the courage to burn it down when it stopped serving people and build something better. That's a pretty expensive maybe. Yeah, but it's the right maybe. Isabella stood, walked to the window. The sun was setting, painting the city in shades of orange and gold. My father used to say that the only real failure was giving up before you knew you were beaten. We're not beaten yet. Close, though. Close counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, not in business. She turned to face him. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to finish the audit. We're going to find every compromise, every vulnerability, every way our systems can hurt people, and then we're going to fix all of it, even if it costs us everything. And if the company doesn't survive, then at least we tried to do the right thing. That's more than most people can say. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, and it reached his eyes for the first time since she'd met him. Okay, let's build something worth building. They worked through the night. Ethan and his team, Marcus and the engineers, Isabella coordinating everything, making decisions, approving expenditures that made Amanda wince but never question. By dawn, they had a plan. Complete system shutdown and rebuild, staggered over 3 months to minimize client disruption. External security audits by 3 independent firms, new protocols for everything from hiring to system access to code review, and full transparency every step of the way. It was ambitious, maybe impossible, definitely expensive. But it was right. The announcement went out at 9 a.m. Another press conference, though smaller this time. Just Isabella and Ethan, explaining what they'd found and what they were doing about it. The response was mixed. Some clients left immediately, unwilling to wait through the rebuild. Others stayed, intrigued by the commitment to security. The stock price wobbled, uncertain. But slowly, over days and then weeks, things began to stabilize. New clients came in, specifically because of the transparency. Security-conscious organizations that had avoided AI companies precisely because of concerns about vulnerability. They wanted a partner who took those concerns seriously. The rebuild progressed, slowly, painfully, but it progressed. Systems came back online one at a time, each one vetted and verified until Ethan and his team were satisfied. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Isabella realized she was happy. Not the adrenaline rush happiness of closing a big deal or the satisfied happiness of hitting quarterly targets. Just content, doing work that mattered with people who cared. 3 months after the press conference that started everything, Isabella was in her office when Amanda knocked. "You have a visitor," Amanda said. "Who?" "She says her name is Chloe Cole and she's here for dinner." Isabella looked at her calendar, confused. Then she remembered. 2 weeks ago, Ethan had casually mentioned that Chloe had declared Isabella was now their friend, and friends came to dinner. Isabella had laughed and said maybe. Apparently, Chloe had taken that as a yes. "Send her in." Chloe bounded into the office with the same energy she'd had the first time, dinosaur backpack and all. But this time, she looked around with open curiosity instead of worry. "Wow," she said. "Your office is really high up. 42nd floor. That's almost as tall as a brachiosaurus." "Almost," Isabella agreed solemnly. "Where's your dad?" "Parking. He said I could come up and get you while he finds a spot." Chloe walked to the window, pressed her nose against the glass. "You can see everything from here." "Pretty much." "Does it make you feel like a giant?" Isabella considered this. "Sometimes. But mostly it just reminds me how small I am compared to everything else." Chloe nodded, like this made perfect sense. "Dad says you're helping fix the robot brains." "The AI systems, yeah. Your dad's doing most of the fixing. I'm just making sure he has what he needs. He likes working with you. He talks about you at breakfast sometimes." Isabella felt warmth spread through her chest. "Does he?" "Uh-huh. He says you're stubborn, but in a good way, like how I'm stubborn about not eating broccoli. I don't think those are quite the same thing." "That's what he said too." Chloe spotted a photo on Isabella's desk, the only personal item in the whole office, a picture of Isabella with her father at her college graduation. "Is that your dad?" "It is." "Where is he now?" "He died, a long time ago." "Oh." Chloe's face fell. "I'm sorry. That's sad." "It is. But it's okay to be sad sometimes. It means you loved someone enough to miss them." Chloe thought about this. "Do you think he'd be proud of you for fixing the robot brains?" The question hit Isabella harder than it should have. She looked at her father's face in the photo, frozen in that moment of pride and hope, and realized she'd finally stopped caring about the answer. "I don't know," she told Chloe honestly, "but I'm proud of me. and I think that matters more. That's good. Dad says being proud of yourself is important because you have to live with yourself forever. Your dad's pretty smart. I know. That's why I ask him questions instead of Google. Ethan appeared in the doorway, slightly out of breath. Sorry, parking was a nightmare. Chloe, I told you to wait in the lobby. But that's boring, and Isabella doesn't mind, right? Right, Isabella confirmed. See? Told you. Ethan looked at Isabella apologetically. If this is a bad time, it's not. I'm actually done for the day. Isabella grabbed her coat. Where are we going? There's a place near our apartment. Chinese food, nothing fancy. Chloe picked it because they have dumplings shaped like animals. Dinosaur dumplings, Chloe clarified. How could I refuse dinosaur dumplings? They took the elevator down together, Chloe chattering about her day at school, Ethan interjecting corrections when she embellished too much. Isabella found herself smiling, relaxing in a way she hadn't in years. The restaurant was exactly what Ethan had promised. Small, noisy, packed with families, and the smell of soy sauce and garlic. They squeezed into a booth, Chloe immediately ordering the dinosaur dumplings and explaining their scientific accuracy to anyone who would listen. She's going to be a paleontologist, Ethan said, or a lawyer, or a paleontologist lawyer who specializes in dinosaur law. Is there such a thing as dinosaur law? There will be when Chloe's done. They ate and talked and laughed. Chloe told stories that went nowhere and everywhere at once. Ethan shared updates on the audit that were too technical for the table, but Isabella appreciated anyway. And somewhere between the dumplings and the fortune cookies, Isabella realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd had dinner with people who weren't business associates or investors or board members demanding updates. Your fortune, Chloe said, handing Isabella a cookie. Isabella cracked it open, pulled out the slip of paper. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. What does that mean? Chloe asked. It means it's never too late to start something new, Isabella said. Even if you wish you'd started sooner. Like when I finally decided to learn to ride a bike last summer? Exactly like that. After dinner, they walked Chloe home. The apartment was small, like Chloe had said, but warm. Full of dinosaur posters and books, and the kind of comfortable clutter that meant people actually lived there. Bedtime, kiddo, Ethan said. But Isabella's here. Isabella will still exist tomorrow. Brush your teeth. Chloe hugged Isabella goodnight, a quick, fierce thing that was over before Isabella could properly respond, and disappeared into her room. Ethan and Isabella stood in the small living room, suddenly awkward without Chloe's energy filling the space. Thanks for coming, Ethan said. She was excited to show you her world. I'm glad she did. It's a good world. It's small. Small isn't bad. Sometimes small is exactly right. They looked at each other, and Isabella felt something shift. Something that had been building since that first night in the conference room, through all the crises and revelations and late-night conversations. Ethan, she started. I know, he said quietly. I feel it too, whatever this is. It's complicated. Everything worth having is. I'm your boss, sort of. You're my client and my friend. And maybe, he stopped himself. But I've got Chloe to think about. And you've got a company to save, and the timing is terrible. The worst, Isabella agreed. So we probably shouldn't. Definitely not. They stood there, not moving, not looking away. But maybe eventually, Ethan said. Maybe eventually, Isabella echoed. She left before the moment could become more than it was. Walked home through streets that felt different somehow, lighter. Like the weight she'd been carrying for 15 years had finally begun to lift. Her phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. Chloe says you forgot your fortune cookie paper. Keep it for me. I'll get it next time. Next time. I like the sound of that. So did Isabella. The weeks that followed were hard. The rebuild took longer than expected, cost more than projected. 3 more board members resigned, unable to stomach the financial losses. Diana stuck around, though, along with Jennifer, and surprisingly, Richard. Your father would hate this, Richard told Isabella one day. All this transparency, all this honesty. He was better at keeping secrets. Was he happy? Isabella asked. Richard was quiet for a moment. No, he wasn't. He built an empire but died alone at his desk, working. Is that what you want? No. But I don't want to build an empire people can't trust either, so I'm trying something different. And if it fails, then I'll fail doing something I believe in. That's better than succeeding at something I hate. 6 months after the first crisis, the audit was complete. Every system verified, every vulnerability patched, every compromise addressed. It had cost $230 million, half their client base, and countless sleepless nights. But the company was still standing. More than that, it was growing. New clients who valued security over speed. New partnerships with organizations that wanted AI they could trust. New revenue streams that weren't built on cutting corners. The board meeting to review the results was surprisingly cordial. Even Richard seemed grudgingly impressed. I still think you're crazy, he told Isabella, but apparently crazy works. Who knew? We did, Diana said. We just needed someone brave enough to try it. After the meeting, Isabella found Ethan in his usual spot, the server room surrounded by code and coffee cups. It's done, she said. He looked up, eyes tired but satisfied. All of it? All of it. The systems are clean, the security is solid, and we're officially no longer a disaster waiting to happen. Just a regular company with regular problems. Exactly. Isabella sat down next to him. Your contract's fulfilled. The audit is complete. You're free to go back to pushing your cleaning cart if you want. Is that what you want? No. But I'm trying to give you a choice instead of assuming I know what's best for you. Ethan smiled. Character growth. I like it. So do I. Isabella pulled out an envelope, handed it to him. This is for you, the payment we agreed on for the full audit. He opened it, looked at the check, and went very still. Isabella, this is a lot. I know. You earned it. I can't accept this. Why not? Because it's... He gestured helplessly. It's $10 million. That's insane. That was the offer. $10 million to whoever fixed the problem. You fixed it. Actually, you fixed everything. Isabella stood. Take it. Buy Chloe a bigger apartment. Pay for her college. Buy yourself a future where you don't have to choose between paying bills and sleeping at night. Ethan stared at the check like it might disappear. What if I don't want to leave? Then don't. Stay on as a consultant, or join full-time, or work 3 days a week. I don't care, as long as you keep doing what you do, seeing what we miss, asking the hard questions, keeping us honest. And Chloe? Bring her to the office sometimes. I like her. She's got good taste in dumplings. Ethan laughed, and it was the freest sound Isabella had ever heard from him. Okay, yeah, I'll stay, but not full-time. 3 days a week, remote when Chloe needs me, and no corporate nonsense. Deal. They shook on it, and this time, neither one pulled away quite as fast. A year later, Isabella stood in front of a different conference room, addressing a different crowd. Industry leaders, academics, policymakers. People who'd come to hear about hard industry's transformation from cautionary tale to case study in radical transparency. The thing about failure, Isabella said, is that it only destroys you if you let it. We failed, spectacularly. Our systems were broken, our security was compromised, and we nearly lost everything. But instead of hiding from that failure, we learned from it, we rebuilt, and we're better for it. She clicked to the next slide, showing the company's growth over the past year. Client retention, revenue, security certifications, industry awards. People ask me if I regret the transparency, if I wish we'd handled things quietly, smoothly, the way companies usually do. And the answer is no. Because transparency isn't about making things smooth, it's about making them right. And right is messy and expensive and terrifying. But it's also the only way to build something that lasts. After the presentation, she found Ethan waiting in the hallway. Chloe was with him, now 8 years old and somehow even more energetic. You were great up there, Ethan said. I just told the truth. Yeah, that's what made it great. Chloe tugged on Isabella's sleeve. Dad says you're coming to my birthday party next week. Am I? You are, Ethan confirmed. Dinosaur theme, mandatory attendance. I wouldn't miss it. They walked out of the building together into the late afternoon sun. Isabella's phone buzzed with messages. Board members, clients, reporters wanting follow-up interviews. She silenced it. You're not going to answer those? Ethan asked. They can wait. Right now, I'm going to have dinner with friends and not think about AI or audits or quarterly earnings. Friends, Ethan repeated. I like that. Me too. Chloe grabbed both their hands, swinging between them as they walked. When I grow up, I'm going to fix robot brains too, just like you guys. You're going to be a paleontologist, Ethan reminded her. I can be both. Dinosaur robots need fixing too. Isabella laughed. She's not wrong. She's never wrong. It's terrifying. They reached the restaurant, the same one with the dinosaur dumplings, now a regular tradition. As they settled into their usual booth, Isabella felt something she'd never quite experienced before. Not the satisfaction of a deal closed or the relief of a crisis averted. Just peace. The kind that came from knowing she was exactly where she was supposed to be, with people who saw her as more than a CEO or a success story or her father's daughter. Just Isabella, flawed, stubborn, trying her best. And for the first time in her life, that felt like enough. Your fortune, Chloe said, handing her a cookie at the end of the meal. Isabella opened it. The best view comes after the hardest climb. She looked around the table, at Ethan, at Chloe, at the life she'd built from the ashes of everything she'd thought she wanted, and smiled. Yeah. The view was pretty good. Outside, the city carried on. Hart Industries stood 42 floors above it all, no longer an empire built on secrets, but a company built on truth. It was smaller now, more focused, more careful. But it was hers. Really hers. Not her father's legacy or the board's investment or some abstract empire. Just a company trying to do the right thing, led by a woman who'd finally learned that being worthy didn't mean being perfect. It meant being brave enough to fail, honest enough to admit it, and stubborn enough to keep trying anyway. And somewhere in a small apartment filled with dinosaur posters, a maintenance technician who'd chosen integrity over wealth counted his daughter's goodnight wishes and thought about the CEO who'd given him a second chance at the work he loved, not because she needed him to save her company, though he had, but because she'd seen him as he was, broken and brilliant and trying, just like her. The city lights flickered on as evening settled in, and in 1,000 apartments and offices and homes, people lived their lives, trusting systems they didn't fully understand, built by companies they hoped were doing the right thing. Most of those companies weren't. Not really. They were chasing profits and growth and market share, treating people as data points and ethics as suggestions. But one company, one small, stubborn, transparent company, was trying something different. It wouldn't save the world, wouldn't fix the industry's systemic problems, or solve AI's ethical dilemmas. But it was a start. And sometimes a start was all you needed.